Ball's moving well here. Gillespie with Michigan having to cover some territory to play D. And a layup, it's good! And one!
Welcome to Sikkim 365 Radio.
Doing a nice job containing here.
There goes Nimble.
Nice pump.
Taken off
To the basket. Nice help again.
Swatted away.
We saw that at the beginning
with the block.
Sikkim 365 Radio is presented by IdealMRI.com. High-quality MRIs for $497 or less. IdealMRI.com. Your health is important, so is your budget.
Shed. Trying to double him. He gets out of it. Pull it pass. Two-handed jam.
The 3 o'clock hour is sponsored by Waco Custom Marketplace. Meats, sweets, Texas treats, and a cut above the rest. 425 Lake Air Drive, Waco.
Carroll's got to be busy too, I think, on this move. The elevator. Nice play.
In the lane.
And a one. Wow. What a great call.
Now here's Paul Catalina and Craig Smoak.
Welcome into Sikkim 365 Radio, 365 Sports on YouTube. Paul Catalina, Craig Smoak with you on your Friday, Sweet 16, halfway over. Now, after last night, David Smoak is off today. I'm just to tell you, he's playing golf. That's what's going on with Smokey. He's not here. Craig and I are here, though, taking through the next 3 hours. We've got Matt Tate talking Kansas. We'll have a writer on Duke, writer on Villanova, plus Grayson Grunhaver, SicEm365.com. And we'll hear yesterday's Sean Bell press conference where the Baylor quarterbacks coach met the media for what may be the last time until next spring, because we don't get to talk to the assistants all that much. But Craig, Sweet 16 last night, a lot of interesting things happened. There's one seed left, and that's because they haven't played yet tonight. Kansas, we'll see what happens with them, and Providence, but Gonzaga's done. Arizona's done. Villanova moves on, and Texas Tech is out after Duke was red smoking hot down the stretch last night.
Yeah, I mean, you want to divvy up the games and kind of talk about them individually, because I can just talk all four. But, it was an incredible night, and a lot of good basketball was played. And, to see Gonzaga go down, I don't think too many people batted an eye or shed too many tears over that one. They're kind of the love-to-be-hated type of team in basketball these days. And Duke very much, they're kind of like Duke in a way. You know what I mean? They kind of remind me in some ways of the Duke fandom, whereas there's a big chunk of people who love to root for them when basketball season rolls around, and then there's a lot of people that love to see them lose, a la Duke. And so you got one, if you're somebody who kind of encompasses both of those, you were half happy last night and then half sad based on the results that we got. But, kudos to Arkansas. They played an incredible game. And there was a lot of confidence in this team. And I think when we talked to the writer yesterday from Arkansas, there was a feeling that, they could beat Gonzaga and they could keep going in this dance. And so they do. And that was awesome to see, just because it shakes things up a little bit, not having another number one seed as a part of the Elite Eight. We're not even – kind of felt like last night it was almost like they were fighting for a trip to the Final Four, and I had to remind myself, no, this is just the Elite Eight coming up. That was interesting. Good for Arkansas. Good for Villanova, and then the two games in particular that really stood out to me obviously had to do with the Texas teams and Tech and Houston. And Houston, man, awesome job by the Cougars and Kelvin Sampson. He's doing an incredible job there and has been for a while, but just being reminded of it every time they step out onto the court. That was a really nice showing against Arizona, who a lot of people had as their, top seed or their team to go all the way. That was one of those teams that was getting a lot of love leading up to the tournament, and Houston took it to them. So good for the Cougs. And then finally the Texas Tech Duke game. Look, Duke's awesome. They're really good. They've got great players, and they've got a Hall of Fame coach, obviously. I was riding with Tech, just that Big 12 love and hoping that they would be able to just, fight their way to a win. In that first half, it looked like, and for a large part of that game, it looked like they were going to be able to, just to those last few minutes when Duke went on that spurt and just, kind of went crazy there for a short stretch and blew open that lead to making it a couple of baskets, and Tech just didn't have an answer for that. So, you see all that NBA talent. Tech's got a lot of great players, but there's a difference in what Duke is lining up out there, and I think that was what really became evident last night.
Well, look, Duke made their, last 8 or 9 shots, whatever it was. That never happens. So if you do that and lose a game, you must have been behind by quite a bit, which they weren't. They were only down by 5 at halftime. The second half was all theirs. I think the one thing that kind of surprised me about both the Arkansas and Houston wins was this wasn't Arkansas and Houston coming back or scrappy. They controlled those games from the jump. Both those teams controlled the games from the jump. That was Arkansas's game from the beginning of the game, and they dictated the pace and everything that Gonzaga was doing. And then Houston, same thing with Arizona. They dictated the pace of that game. Kelvin Sampson in the Elite Eight for the second straight year. That guy is one heck of a basketball coach. It's said all the time, but it's really hard to get to where all these teams are. And you see there are very good teams sitting at home right now or gone home. And to do it 2 years in a row is super impressive what he did. And then, of course, we didn't talk about Villanova and Michigan. A game that was that was Villanova's style of basketball all the way. They dictated that game. It was close. Michigan was in it. It was tight. It was a little back and forth, but really you saw that was Jay Wright basketball all the way through. And one of the things that I noticed, and just comparing it to Baylor, was last year Baylor kind of played that Villanova style a little bit more, where there were the extra passes were there. Villanova, very rarely the first guy down the floor shoots the ball. They're always passing the ball. Usually 3 guys a possession touch it, and I'm sure Jay Wright would love to have it if all 5 guys got their hands on the ball before the last person shot the best available shot to them. Baylor did that a lot more last year when they won the title. This year, James Akinjo, not that kind of point guard. It was more of a, kind of press the defense into making a bad decision. There weren't those extra passes as much, but that's what Villanova runs. That's why they won two national titles in 3 years. It's just they run their system to a T and to perfection under Jay Wright.
Yeah, when shots aren't falling, keep shooting. I mean, you keep firing away. But yeah, Jermaine Samuels was fantastic. Gillespie was very good as well. And that was probably of the 4 games the one that I guess afterwards was thinking about the most. Like that one kind of happened. I was stuck on Tech and Houston though, just because regionally I'm a little bit biased, towards those teams. But yeah, that was a great showing by Villanova. Michigan had a really good year as well. But Jay Wright and the Wildcats, I mean, that matchup with Houston is going to be something special here coming up in the Elite Eight round. So I'm very excited to see that game. And like you said, Kelvin Sampson, just to get Houston back to this point again. I'm very excited about them getting into the Big 12. I just wish it could happen like right now so they could kind of coast off of it a little bit. But you've got you almost had the opportunity there where Tech looked like they maybe had a chance to get past Duke up until, 2 minutes left when that little spurt occurred. But then, here's Houston in the Elite Eight once again. And Kansas, obviously, is alive as well. So, it's not all, Big 12 just yet. The American gets credit for Houston, but it is, fun to see that they're in very good shape and their journey is not over and may not be over for a bit while longer based on the way that they're playing, although Villanova obviously will be tough, but just makes me thrilled to see if all of this can just kind of stay the way it is for a couple more years, what this basketball conference could look like. And it's already pretty special, but everybody, who's interested in this new league has been talking particularly about the level of basketball that might be played. And you're seeing a little glimpse of it right now. And we've seen glimpses of it along the way previously this year. But yeah, it's going to be really cool when Kelvin Sampson and the Cougs are a part of the mix as well as the others. But yeah, great night of basketball. Really was bummed out for Tech. I mean, that was tough, but I felt like they did about as – I think a lot of Tech fans probably felt this way. I saw a couple of them kind of refer to just squeezing every bit of juice that they could out of that team, given the talent level and just the coaching and all the uncertainty at the beginning of the year with the Chris Beard turnover and then having to rework that roster. And obviously Adams went and just raided the transfer portal, and you saw a lot of those guys make huge impacts all year long for Tech. So in a very short amount of time, he put together a team that had, the chemistry of a team that had been together for a while, and he's going to be really successful there. I don't think anybody questions that now at this point. So for all the hand-wringing over Chris Beard, the Red Raiders are in perfectly good hands, and, they'll be back. And, yeah, I was just disappointed because, they had an opportunity, but Duke was the better team. Ultimately, Duke was the better team. And if you picked them to go in and you were questioning why people were picking Tech, I totally get it. But, Tech just kind of had that feel of not having the superstars per se, but just being a really good team that I thought could maybe grind and be physical. But, offensively, Duke's just really special in comparison. And I think that showed to tip the game in their favor last night.
Yeah, and Arkansas also in their second consecutive Elite Eight. So
yeah, for them.
Eric Musselman really doing a job.
You want to come join the Big 12 too, Arkansas? Come on, let's go.
Yeah, absolutely. That was really a kind of a wild night of basketball, and it makes you wonder. And we'll ask Matt Tate about this in just a second. The number one seeds, there's only one left, Kansas. And they play tonight against Providence, against Ed Cooley, who has made no bones about the fact that he's not afraid to play anybody in this tournament. Mm-hmm. And this is not a Providence team that he feels is in any way overmatched. He thinks that, they stand up well against anybody, and he's right. He has no reason to do that. So the Big 12 has two hopes tonight in Iowa State and Miami. This is going to be an interesting night in that, there are 3 double-digit seeds alive. At least one of them is going to be in the Elite Eight because Iowa State and Miami play each other. St. Peter's tries to continue their Cinderella run against Purdue and Jaden Ivey, who to me, I'd be kind of scared if I was the rest of the tournament because Jaden Ivey was a little off against Texas for a good stretch of that game. And then when they needed him to, he's stepping back and hitting threes and making key plays, which leads me to believe he's starting to get hot.
Yeah, I mean, I know everybody loves Cinderella. I don't have a lot of hope, to be perfectly honest with you, in St. Peter's tonight. I mean, maybe I'm totally off base with that. I'm certainly no college basketball expert by any means, but I like Purdue in this game quite a bit. And then, they'd obviously face one of the Blue Bloods in that other side of the bracket with the old Bruins and Tar Heels there that'll be brewing up here pretty soon. But, Purdue, it would be awesome to see St. Peter's continue the Cinderella run. That would be incredible to watch, but I'm not banking on it. I don't know about you and most people out there, but I think the percentages are kind of low. But, hey, we'll see. That's why it's the tournament. I mean, who had St. Peter's in the Sweet 16 to begin with, right? So let's see how far they can take it.
All right, before our first break here, this is from Sean Fulton, sent this to Smokey, who sent it on. Since 2001, top tournament record versus top 3 seeds. Gonzaga is 1-12. All 14 and 15 seeds are 16 and 162. So they have a better winning percentage than Gonzaga against top 3 seeds, and Arkansas is a 4 seed, so that doesn't even count there. But Gonzaga has now, I think, probably solidly fallen in that reputation where they've been in 2 championship games and lost, and they've kind of been down this road and been great teams and lost. And Mark Few's trying to shake it off, but it could be a while. You never know.
Yeah, there's probably a lot of other comparisons you could make, but I'll fall back on Oklahoma football for this one. When they were making their run in the 2000s with Bob Stoops, and, I mean, that was a lengthy, illustrious run. But when they won that first national title in his second year, you thought, hey, he's going to go on and win like 5 of these things. And they got back to the game very shortly thereafter and got upset by LSU when they were, arguably the greatest offense of all time in college football. And LSU put it on them in a low-scoring game. I think it was like 21-14 was the final there. Okay, we'll get them the next time. Then you go and you play USC, and it's hyped up to be maybe the greatest matchup of all time because of the 2 offenses and all the star power that was involved. And they had like 4 of the 5 Heisman finalists because it was Jason White and Adrian Peterson and Bush and Leinart. And I forget if there was another person in that group, but they had like four of the Heisman finalists in that game, and then USC just absolutely crushed them into fine powder. And okay, we'll go and we'll get them next time, and and then they've been back, since then, and just cannot quite get over that hump. And now it's kind of turned into whereas it was they were getting the national title game in the 2000s and couldn't win it. Then you start this playoff era, and they're the team from the Big 12 that's regularly getting into it, but they're the one, that also can't win a playoff game, right? And then that became kind of the knock on Lincoln Riley, or the thing that, opposing fans would want to jab at them for. And it's great, point being, to be involved in the championship game and to have all those shots, but ultimately what matters is going and winning the dadgum thing, Nobody's hanging a banner saying 18 national championship appearances. It's like, no, you hang the one that says national championships. And so for Gonzaga, I mean, they're racking up Sweet 16s, and they've had Elite 8s, and they've had Final Fours, and they've even had the championship game appearance like last year. But yeah, disappointing, because ultimately it's about getting over that hump and going and winning the whole dadgum thing. And that's just not been in the cards for them. So got to be incredibly frustrating. And, especially coming off last year and that disappointment, I think probably people put too much into, that fueling them, the Baylor loss really in particular fueling them. I think they had the same goals they would have always had, just maybe more of a chip on their shoulder. But, I mean, to not even, sniff the championship game this year when you've got guys like Drew Timme and the rest of that cast, that's incredibly disappointing. But that's why the tournament is so fun, and you've got to give the Hogs a lot of credit. Eric Musselman doing a fantastic job with that group, and they earned that win last night.
Yeah, I just kind of called him on the fly here, since we got 3 guests right here back to back, and our good friend Matt Tate, Lawrence Journal World, joins us now here on Sikkim 365 Radio, 365 Sports. And Matt, number 1 seeds all gone except for Kansas. They're alone as in that regard. Is there a little, and I know this just from my own home living with a Kansas fan, but is there a little nervousness and consternation with the fan base that they're the last man standing?
Oh my God, yes. You write something like that, and then they yell at you and say, "Well, way to jinx it! Why'd you do that?" And I'm like, "Well, I hate to break it to you guys, but I have no control over any of this. So I'm just reporting facts." And that was a big night last night. I mean, to watch 2 1 seeds go down on the same night, and all of a sudden Yeah, I mean, it's never happened where they've all four gone out before the Elite Eight, and KU's in a great position, and if they can find a way to win tonight, they'll be the Vegas favorite probably to win this whole thing. So, fans are fans, and they're always going to be nervous no matter what. They were nervous in the first round game, but this thing continues to play out in a very favorable way for Kansas, and now they just have to take advantage of it.
Matt, you saw a lot of Texas Tech all year. Just looking at the Big 12, Iowa State obviously has yet to play, and then Houston not in the Big 12 now. But there's that buddy there that is going to be here pretty soon. But in terms of Texas Tech, what did you think of seeing them in their season end last night?
Yeah, it's a tough loss, man. They're as good as anybody. I think they could beat anybody. Obviously, they've shown that over the year. And you just, I mean, as a Big 12 follower and someone who's really impressed with Mark Adams, it's really easy to root for that guy. So it was hard to see them go down, and I know 95% of the country was rooting for them because everybody wants Coach K to go out. I understand that, but it's also kind of cool that Coach K is still alive and doing his thing. So what a game though. I mean, that one could have gone either way, and Tech is obviously in really good hands with Adams, and I think he's the kind of coach that he's going to keep recruiting. He's going to keep getting guys that fit his system, and it doesn't matter who they are, what their names are, what their pedigree is. He's going to coach them up, and they're going to be a factor every single year. So, they proved that this year, and they're going to be back, no question about it.
Matt, when it comes to this game tonight against Providence, Ed Cooley, I've watched some of the press conferences. He's not afraid of anything. I mean, he's not backing down. I think it kind of feels like his team is underseeded at 4 a little bit to hear him talk about it. What do you think about the matchup tonight that Kansas is going to have to take on?
Well, he was a machine yesterday. I mean, you're right. The Rodney Dangerfield, I get no respect, was dripping off of every word he said, and I've never seen a coach at the end of a press conference. He went on about the respect thing, and he said nobody expected us to be here, nobody wanted us here, but Providence is in the damn building. And then the last words he said were, "Drop the mic." And so you can't help but laugh. I mean, he's passionate, and I also thought it was really funny that, a couple hours later when Bill Self was on the podium, he talked about what you just said, that they may be underseeded and they win the Big East and they're behind Villanova in the seed lines and things like that. And Self said, I get it, but golly, we don't think they're not getting any respect. We respect the hell out of them. So it was kind of a little bit of a back and forth there just for fun, but it's a tough matchup. There's no doubt. I mean, Kansas, this region has opened up a little bit with the bottom side being the 10 and the 11, but everybody sees every year that none of that matters. And so I think Kansas has a bunch of veterans, a bunch of guys that are they haven't really reached this stage, but they're experienced enough in these types of games, and especially their coaching staff is that I think, preparation is probably a big part of this one tonight. And, this is Cooley's first Sweet 16 game as a head coach, and not Bill Self's first. This is his 14th. So I don't know that matters when the ball goes up tonight, but I do think that it could matter Monday through today, and we'll see if that does play a role at all. But KU seems loose to me. They seem like they're having fun. They're enjoying the ride. They respect Providence. There's no question about it. They know that if they don't show up and play well, this team has more than enough, and it's its own set of veterans that can absolutely show up and send KU home. So I think they'll be really locked in. I think they're enjoying the ride, and I think it comes down to the most simple part of this thing is if they defend the 3-point line well enough, they'll win the game, and that's been a problem all year. And it was a problem last week against Creighton. But, other than that, I mean, it's one of those things where there's so much that goes into winning and losing a game at this time of year that it's hard to just pinpoint one thing and say, this is it. But I think that's it. I think that's as simple as it gets. I think if Providence doesn't go lights out and shoot 45% or crazier, from the 3-point line, that is, I think KU wins. And then they're in the Elite Eight, and that would be the 11th or 9th time, I think, under Self. And then, and then the pressure really ramps up because then you're playing a double-digit seed to go to the Final Four. And who wouldn't sign up for that at the beginning of the year. So it's a whole other level of pressure at that point. But, I think it's one that they would be more than willing to face and are absolutely hoping they get.
Matt, I remember conversations as the season was getting underway with you, other college basketball writers, other Kansas writers, and before he had really done much, Remy Martin was already a very hot topic and probably mentioned more than just about anybody on that roster, it felt like. And it's taken him a little while, but what's it like to see, especially here recently, him turn into the Remy Martin that everybody was talking about 5 months ago?
What an ace in the hole, right? I mean, I'm trying to break the story that says he was sandbagging all year and just waiting for this. I don't think I'm going to find that. I think knowing the guy a little bit, I think, he would have much rather been playing all year because he loves this game. You see it in the way he plays. It killed him to be out. But at the same time, he was always gearing up and trying to point toward this as sort of the storybook ending for him. And that's why he shut it down. That's why he tried to get fully healthy instead of trying to play through it at 70 or 80%. And it worked out, man. I mean, just by the hair of your chin type of thing. I mean, they didn't have much more time to spare, but he does look fully healthy. He looks crazy explosive, crazy quick. He is a different element that Kansas hasn't had all year. And what's crazy about that to me is that this is a team that won a bunch of games without it and still position themselves to be in that number one seed conversation. And then you get him back and it's like, wow, who adds a free agent like that at the end of the season and gets to, make a playoff push type of thing. So it's been crazy fortunate for them. And it's been cool to watch it work out for him because he is a very passionate dude. He loves this game and he's enjoyed his time at Kansas, even though part of it's been frustrating. So, for him to go out there and be the difference maker, I mean, I think the idea here and within that locker room is that, he's really just getting started. I think they think he can continue to take his game and their team to higher levels. And what an advantage to have that as you're trying to make a run to the Final Four or perhaps beyond. So, it's been very cool to watch that play out, as frustrating as it was for him. But there's no question that he's the difference maker, and he's played really well in the last 5 games, all of them postseason games. So, no reason to expect he won't tonight. But this is why he came to Kansas. This stage right here, he didn't even think about getting here with Arizona State, and so this is why he came. And if he's not fired up, something's wrong. If anything, they'll probably have to calm him down a little bit because he may be too fired up tonight. But we'll see. It's cool. It's cool having it in Chicago, the United Center, tons of KU fans. It's just that's the kind of thing that these guys live for. So it'll be fun to watch them all enjoy it, but especially him.
Bill Self left him on the bench for a little bit longer than maybe normally a guy who was as hot as he was in the first half against Creighton coming out in the second half. Do you think that maybe he won't do that again this week if the same thing kind of happens?
Probably. I mean, the thing with that is he loves DeJuan Harris and he loves what DeJuan brings to the team. So it's not as easy as let's just put this guy away and forget about him, because he thinks that DeJuan can still add a lot, which he can, defensively, setting the table. There's a lot of things that he does well, and a lot of them don't get noticed. So, you did see him against Creighton play the two together some. It's a really small look when they do that, but it's also really quick and really fast and can really cause problems the other way. So I would imagine that he, that he wouldn't mind doing that again tonight, even though the size disadvantage would be a problem. But you guys know as well as anybody, I mean, coaches at this time of year, and Bill Self in particular, he'd play his grandma if he thought she was going to win him the game. So if Remy's hot and Remy's being Remy and he's cooking and he thinks that's going to help them advance, yeah, he'd play him 40 minutes. But they do have a system. They do have a pretty well-established rotation, even with Remy in it now, and it's worked. So I don't see them deviating from that too much unless circumstances kind of dictate that they have to. But if they can play with the lead, if they can, take control and dictate the way the game is played, I just think we'll see what we've seen the last couple of weeks because obviously it has been working.
Matt Tate, Lawrence Journal World. Matt, enjoy the game tonight. We'll talk to you soon.
All right, guys. Thanks a bunch. You too.
All right. It's our good friend Matt Tate, Lawrence Journal World, on the Kansas Jayhawks, who take on Providence tonight in Chicago at the United Center. When we come back, a segment designed just to annoy Armstrong Sims. We're going to talk Duke basketball with Brian McLawhorn from Bull City Hoops, and we'll talk about that hot streak they had last night. Armstrong doesn't even have his headset on. He didn't want to hear anything about Duke. He's just going to hear questions, and that's it. This is Sick of 365 Radio, 365 Sports.
Baylor University is where lights shine bright. So, let there be light. Let there be roommates and teammates, scholarship and championships. Let there be fresh starts and new traditions, fast friendships and lasting impacts. Let there be laughter. Let there be joy. Let there be light. Baylor University, where lights shine bright.
One size fits all. That may be all right for an adjustable belt or cheap sunglasses, but when it comes to your financials, no one wants a one-size-fits-all strategy. Ben Erlinson, your Edward Jones financial advisor, knows that his most important goals are yours. That's why he takes the time to understand your needs, knowing you. That's how Edward Jones makes sense of investing. Ben Erlinson, 100 North 6th Street in Waco, 254-759-8533. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
In the market for a quality metal building? Since 1943, Pioneer Steel and Pipe has helped Central Texas residential and commercial customers with metal building design, panel options, building components, and trim options. Pioneer Steel and Pipe's residential line is energy efficient, offers low maintenance, reduces insurance payments, is impact resistant, and carries up to a 45-year limited warranty. In addition, they can also help you find a metal building contractor for your project. Pioneer Steel and Pipe with locations in Waco and Bryan and at pioneersboys.com.
It was broad daylight. I stepped into a gas station for 5 minutes to grab a snack, and just like that, my car was broken into. They made out like a bandit. My laptop, my phone, everything. I called my agent to see what could be done, and he restored my faith in humanity. My claim was processed so quickly, and I was able to recover my losses.
Stop by and see our agents at one of our 3 McLennan County locations.
Coverage and discounts are subject to qualifications and policy terms and may vary by situation.
Did you know that Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness is a partner of the City of Waco? Did you know that we are open to the public? Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness offers day passes to the public for only $10 a day, and we offer money-saving memberships. Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness offers over 40 group exercise classes each week, including barre, yoga, boot camp, indoor cycling, and more. There are free weights, weight machines, TRX, rowing machines, stationary bikes, new treadmills, elliptical machines, and much more on the spacious weight room floor. Personal training available where you can be encouraged to grow. Sauna, whirlpool, tanning bed and kids club, 17 tennis courts, 8 pickleball courts, youth and adult tennis and pickleball lessons. Waco's premier experience where you can help your mind, body, and soul. Visit our website at wacotennis.com. Call us at 254-753-7675 or visit us next to Hawaiian Falls on Lakeshore Drive in Waco.
Cars priced right both day and night. And Richard Car in Texas. Trucks built for you, red, white, and blue. And Richard Car in Texas. Cars that zoom with lots of room. And Richard Car in Texas. Count on us, a dealer to trust. And Richard Car in Waco, Texas.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio. Have you subscribed to our YouTube channel? Search 365 Sports on YouTube.
An incredible close down the stretch for second-seeded Duke last night. Locked them up a win over Texas Tech, and they're on to the Elite Eight. And Coach K's career not over yet. Brian McLawhorn from Bull City Hoops joins us now. You can find him on Substack. And Brian, that last 2.5, 3 minutes of the game last night, Duke's done a lot of things, a lot of great things in their history, but not missing a shot down the stretch. I don't know if I've ever seen that.
Yeah, I mean, it was a 3-point game. It was 3 points. It was 3 points. And then, you know, you look at the score, and it was 7-0. And then, you know, you look at the score, and it's 7-0. And then, you know, you look at the score, and it's 7-0. And then, you know, you look at the score, and it's 7-0. And then, you know, you look at the score, and it's 7-0. And then, you know, you look at the score, and it's 7-0. And then, you know, you look at the score, and it's 7-0. And then, you know, you look at the score, and it's 7-0. And then, you know, you look at the score, and it's 7-0. And then, you know, you look at the score, and it's 7-0. And then, you know, you look at the score, and it's 7-0. And then, you know, you look at the score, and it's 7-0. And then, you know, you look at the score, and it's 7-0. And then, you know, you look at the score, and it's 7-0. And then, you know, you look at the score, and it's 7-0. pretty remarkable, to be honest. I think it was from about the 8-minute mark, they went. They were perfect from the field, and they had not missed a shot since just under the 9-minute mark of that second half. So it was pretty unreal. It's hard to compete against a team that doesn't miss a shot, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. So what has been, as you've kind of followed them along with the Coach K farewell tour that ended in Cameron Indoor very poorly, and after that, have things kind of changed for this team after they kind of let their guy down in his last home game?
Yeah, I think so. You know, I struggled for a while to really figure out what was happening there with Duke down the stretch. I know there was a media circus around Coach K that last week of the regular season, and then even into the ACC tournament to a degree. But that week before UNC to close out the season, everybody just wanted to talk about it being Coach K's last game at Cameron. And as much as the players wanted to say it didn't bother them, it's hard to think that a bunch of 18-year-old kids weren't bothered by that pressure of, okay, we've got to win this last game for Coach K and Cameron Indoor. And like I said, they didn't really admit to that. So I do think it impacted them. And early on, I didn't know that it was as big of a deal. But once you start seeing them here in the NCAA tournament, where they've embraced more of the idea that, you know, this is also potentially our last game as a unit. It's not just Coach K's; it's potentially our last game as a unit. And their mindset shifted to that. And I think what we've seen is a team that's playing with more confidence, more relaxed tone, and this urgency approach, I guess, of okay, well, we have to play with our heart. We have to play to win. We have to lay it all on the court. And we weren't necessarily seeing that in that final stretch. I think they were pressing a little bit. So I do sense a little bit of a difference, and particularly over these last two games against Michigan State and Texas Tech, where they closed out those last 5 to 7 minutes as strong as they've closed out any game this season. And that was kind of an Achilles heel for them at times. They lost several games that were close down the stretch throughout the ACC schedule. So I think we're seeing a toughness to them now, and where they're really buying into that this is their run, not necessarily Coach K's run.
Brian, as I'm sure you saw, a lot of people were heavy on Texas Tech in this game, and they had a great year, and they've got a very good team. But just what were your impressions of the Red Raiders and checking them out up close and personal last night?
Yeah, I mean, that defense, it reminded me a lot of the South Carolina defense in 2017, I believe it was, that beat Jason Tatum and Luke Kennard, that team, in the second round of the NCAA tournament. Those guys are physical, they're relentless, and, you know, it takes a tough team, you know, from a mindset standpoint and physically to really handle that and be prepared. And I don't think Duke was necessarily prepared for that right out of the gates. I think they were nervous, and they expected some physicality because Michigan State gave a little bit to them, but that's a tough defense. And honestly, it didn't surprise me because those guys have under that coaching staff, and I know it's his first year there, but as the head man, but you know, they have this relentless toughness, and it showed last night. Those guys that's a really good team.
That South Carolina team beat Baylor in the Elite Eight at Madison Square Garden, Sweet 16 in Madison Square Garden. I was there, remember it all too well. Under new UMass coach Frank Martin, by the way, that came down today. You've watched Ben Banchero all year, and he's been really good. Was last night, though, his signature performance?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the thing we saw from him last night, and it's something that Coach K and his staff has been harping on all season, and we've seen flashes of it. But he's had a tendency to play more of a finesse game at times, and they want him to be physical and aggressive. And what we saw down the stretch was a guy who was thinking about nothing but winning the basketball game. He wasn't thinking about being flashy. He wasn't thinking about trying to take a guy off the dribble. He just wanted to make plays. And when he's in that mindset, you get what we saw last night. And you know, we've only seen glimpses of that. But what we saw last night is the very reason that guy is a potential number one pick in the NBA draft.
So just in terms of this year, how would you kind of describe the circus and just the year itself up until this point? I mean, obviously it's not done, and they've got Arkansas coming up, and they want to finish it off right for Coach K. But just in terms of comparisons to years past, I mean, just how much of a circus has this been?
You know, it's been interesting. It's different from any other year because you're coming off a year that they did not make the NCAA tournament last year, and I know it was just such an odd year. And for a young team, a lot of people will laugh at this concept. They'll hear Coach K talk about we're young, and they look at it as maybe as excuse. But where it really showed last year is that they did not have that time to mesh as a new team, and it affected them all season long. So this year, they've been trying to. There's been this redemption factor, I think, a little bit from them. So we saw that play in a little bit to the ebbs and flows, and then you add to the mix that Coach K is on his last run, and I don't know that really impacted it until you got deeper into the ACC season when it became such a talking point because Krzyzewski did a great job of kind of squelching any of that conversation early in the season. So it has been a circus to a different degree because they've had the questions of, you didn't make the tournament last year. What do you have to do to not be the Duke team that doesn't make the tournament 2 years in a row? And just all the little things. And those guys are under a microscope. It's there's a lot of media that hounds these guys, and I would say they handled it pretty well. Certainly they had some ups and downs, but it's been a different year, that's for sure. So I think it's pretty remarkable to see how they've handled the NCAA tournament, to be quite honest.
Do you think that that Coach K's farewell tour now for a lot of teams motivated to be the team that knocks Coach K out and keeps him from winning what would be his last title would be a motivating factor, but is it having the opposite effect through these first 3 games a little bit?
I don't know. That's a good question. I think it's that is a something we've seen all year. But everybody always gives Duke their best shot. That is an extra motivating factor, but maybe it is. Maybe that has made some of these teams tight, particularly down the stretch. I think it was Izzo that said after Duke beat Michigan State, he said, we were the ones that got tight. Duke should have been the ones that were tight late down the stretch, not us. We were the ones that were experienced. So, some of that could have played in. I could see it for sure. Everybody wants to be remembered as that team that knocked them off. I know UNC took advantage of that factor on the good side. But, it's hard to say. But some of these teams do probably want to go down in history as the team that ended Coach K's career.
How much of a factor, and it's kind of dumb to ask it that way, but Jeremy Roach, just his play in terms of what he did there at the end of the game along with Williams and others, just a sensational ball handler and playmaker. Just what have you seen from Jeremy Roach along the way?
Yeah, Jeremy Roach, I don't think Duke would be where they're at right now without Jeremy Roach, particularly over the last 2 games. But it's something that's been building since mid-February when Trevor Kills went down briefly with an injury and Roach was reinserted into the starting lineup. But what we've seen the last 2 games, and particularly last night, he changed the whole dynamic. Duke struggled with that Texas Tech defense, but what Jeremy Roach did is he's just so relentless in attacking the basket. And these defenses can't collapse on him, because if you do, you saw what Mark Williams did early in the second half when they tried that. You see what Banchero does when defenses try to collapse on one specific player. So they were giving him an opportunity to get to the hoop, and Jeremy's been so confident that he can make those shots. And it's really unreal to think about how far along he's come from last year and even just really through the first half of this season. Because if you had have asked me 2 months ago, would Jeremy Roach be the guy we're talking about in the NCAA tournament as the catalyst for some big wins down the stretch, I'd say not in a million years. And it's been pretty impressive to see how he's handled it, and he's showing a different gear that none of us have really seen over the last 2 years that he's been at Duke.
Brian, what do you think about Arkansas coming up on Saturday?
I haven't delved in a whole lot with them, but I expect some pretty similar things. I know they don't have quite the highly rated defense in regards to statistics and national recognition that Texas Tech had, but I expect another team that's going to be physical, tough, well-coached. I know Chris Likes didn't play a lot in their game yesterday, but that guy's very familiar with Duke from his time at Miami, and he's always played well against Duke. So I think they're going to have some insight on how Duke likes to attack, and Arkansas is tough. It's going to be another battle. I don't expect anything less from that game than what we saw last night and what we saw with Duke and Michigan State.
Brian McLawhorn, managing editor, Bull City Hoops. Find him on Substack and on Twitter. Brian, thanks so much for jumping on the show. Short notice today. Enjoy the games this weekend. And look, if Duke's in the Final Four, we're going to have to get you back on and talk about that run again.
Absolutely. We'd love to do it. Appreciate you guys having me on.
All right. Thanks a lot, Brian. There you go. We've got Grayson Grundhafer, Sikkim365.com. Up next, Sean Bell met the media yesterday. We'll hear that press conference in its entirety later on the show, but Grayson's thoughts on the quarterback battle and the talk about it yesterday from spring practice. This is Sikkim365 Radio and 365 Sports.
1, 2.
I'm in love with a man named Rudy. I'm okay with that. He knows exactly what I want. Keeps me coming back. He cooks breakfast, lunch, and dinner for me. Does the dishes too. I'm in love with a man named Rudy. Last name Barbecue. It sure is easy to fall in love with Rudy's tasty oak smoked barbecue.
Next in line.
Boots add protection. Good boots help you climb better and move forward faster. And when your son or daughter steps into the boots of a U.S. Army officer, they also learn how to lead. In these boots, they'll gain more confidence with expert training in one of more than 150 occupational specialties. In these boots, they'll stand a little taller and lead a team with diverse backgrounds and areas of expertise to successfully accomplish whatever challenge comes next. In these boots, they'll earn respect with valuable experience from day one that will give them solid footing for success into the future. Highly qualified candidates who earn a spot on our team can receive comprehensive health care coverage, college tuition assistance, and a bonus of up to $40,000. See all the things your son or daughter can achieve in our boots at GoArmy.com. U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company, 254-598-8131 or 254-776-1543.
At Ideal MRI, we feel blessed to be part of the Waco community. We're a small family business here in Central Texas. At times like this, the cost of healthcare has never been more important. And unfortunately, significant illnesses and injuries still occur. And that's why Ideal MRI is open and here to serve you through this difficult time. So if you need an MRI, ask your doctor about Ideal MRI. You can schedule online in minutes at idealmri.com or call 833-IDEAL-MRI.
From the first workout to the last practice, sports is an incredible challenge. Hi, this is Dan Ingham with the First National Bank of Central Texas, and we're proud to support each athlete, every parent, and our educators. From families, small businesses, to the biggest industry, we're here to help. With remarkable products like First Free Checking, we've got banking ideas that fuel big dreams. The First National Bank of Central Texas. Familiar faces making local decisions.
Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
Hey, this is Bryce Petty, former starting quarterback and two-time Big 12 champion, and I know firsthand the importance of being in top shape both on and off the field. So listen up, men. If you're feeling beat down day in and day out and looking for that high-performance edge that separates the men from the boys, then look no further than the Petty Clinic Low T in Waco. Petty Clinic is a comprehensive men's healthcare clinic with an atmosphere catering to men. Board-certified Dr. Kent Petty has a special interest in offering the highest quality medical care to men of all ages. Some of the services offered include screening and treatment for low testosterone or thyroid, infertility, high blood pressure, diabetes, high cholesterol, sleep apnea, while offering comprehensive wellness exams and complete men's health lab panels. High performance men, remember, it's not just a Petty thing. This is Bryce Petty, encouraging you to reach out and Google search Petty Clinic Low T or go to pettycliniclowt.com and get your complimentary lab screening today.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio.
The Sikkim 365 Radio app is sponsored by Allen Samuels Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram Fiat in Waco. Your friend in the car business at Loop 340 and east of 84. Come by. Let's be friends.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio, 365 Sports on YouTube. Paul, Catalina, Craig Smoak. Smokey is taking the day off. He is on a golf course, or I don't know. He's still on a golf course, but he's probably pretty close to a golf course. That's where he is. So nobody worry. He's just golfing. Craig, before we get to Grayson, you have a note on LJ Cryer.
Yeah, LJ Cryer obviously was a big storyline for Baylor this year, mostly because he was out of the lineup so often, dealing with an injury. Been a little scuttlebutt on just what his future looks like at Baylor. But he posted a note on our graphic just about 20 minutes ago on Twitter. Says this season was really difficult after getting off to a good start and then missing so many games while injured. I learned a lot watching my teammates and tried to support them in every way possible. The good news is I recently had surgery to repair stress fractures in both feet and expect to be back in plenty of time for next season. I'm looking forward to getting back on the court as soon as possible and appreciate everyone's support throughout this process. So that was LJ Cryer. And yeah, just mentioned getting back next season and having surgery to repair stress fractures in both feet. So that's of note.
Both feet. That can't be good.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Grayson, a guy who has stress fractures in neither of his feet, I'm assuming, joins us here.
Yeah, not currently.
Not currently.
Yeah, I don't have any of that.
Good. Well, I'm glad, Grayson. So spring practice is underway. We had you here. You were here the other day, Tuesday, on the show talking about it. What are your early thoughts, especially after hearing Sean Bell talk about the quarterbacks yesterday?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's pretty much what we thought it would be, right? I mean, it's going to be a fairly open competition, but it does seem kind of like we thought. You know, Gary currently right now is the guy until either A, he's not the guy, or B, Blake Shapen just runs away with the job. That's at least how I took it. I took it as Gary needs to improve, but Gary's our guy right now, but we know how talented Blake Shapen is, and Shapen's going to have to go out there and earn it, which, honestly, that's the way it should be. You know, Gary played well enough last year, I think, to go into the spring as, you know, the de facto starter. And I think that Blake Shapen played well enough for everyone to get very excited about his future and for him to at least have a shot in this competition, which I think he's going to get.
Yeah, Grayson, I wrote a little bit about this, but I think Dave Aranda really hammered home opportunity, in particular in regards to Shapen. I mean, he said the word like 3 or 4 times and even went into his own self-reflection this offseason about, you know, making sure you kind of validate guys and know that they want an opportunity and a fair shake. So they're certainly doing that. And for Blake Shapen, I thought it was notable that, you know, leadership was a big theme with him, from Sean Bell talking about it, you know, an institute that he went to work on that along with some other guys, to Blake himself talking about that. He seems like he's a different personality from Gary. So you think it's a matter of just being able to show that leadership, being maybe more of a quieter guy, whereas Gary's more of an outward type of a guy already?
Yeah, it's kind of interesting, right? Because I think that was a big separating factor during the spring, at the end of spring, and then going into the fall last year between Gary and Jacob Zeno and Blake Shapen. Was it just seems like everyone talked about that leadership quality that Gary had. And it wasn't even just the talking part, you know, the vocal leader. It was also just the by example stuff. You know, he was the guy that was in there early, left late, put in the work. Everyone saw him develop through the spring to the fall, just as a player, as a leader. And I think Gary got to that point last year where he really made it his team. And so I think Blake's going to have to really do some things to pass Gary in that regard. The good news is, based on how I see their relationship, based on that quarterback room, it seems like even if Gary didn't win the job, if Blake did win the job, Gary is still going to be a very vital leader for this team. So I think it's very important that both are there, that both are giving it their all, putting in the work. But I also think it's really important and healthy for the room that, you know, those guys really like each other. They want to push each other, and they each need to get better at certain areas of the quarterback position, whether it's leadership or on the field stuff. And I think it's important that they basically work on it together. I think that's massive for the program.
Do you think that some of the guys we saw not on the roster, that some of them were a surprise, some of them at least mildly, some of them maybe not as much as if you really think about it? Do you think that will affect Baylor, you know, searching in the transfer portal for positions like that, or are those, not to be flippant about it, were they kind of extra spots?
Yeah, they were kind of extra spots. Honestly, I got to the practice arena and we got the roster, and I immediately looked at Jack and I was like, all right, we need to look for these names immediately. And 4 of the 6 guys were guys that weren't on the roster anymore. So I think we kind of had a pretty good idea of maybe some of the guys that maybe weren't going to be there in the spring. And I think we're going to have more guys that probably leave, heading into the summer after spring football when guys kind of find out where they are in the program and where they are on the depth chart. So I think there will be more, and that will probably affect the transfer portal more. Whereas I think these were probably more so expected attrition.
Is it going to be hard for you to not be able to talk about Jackson Gleason eventually breaking out?
I think it's hard for everyone just because, of his speed and just how appealing it was to just see him kind of fly down the field. I mean, his highlight tapes, I believe he's from the Mansfield area, but he was just a burner, guys, an absolute burner. I will say, I think the guy that I talk about probably way too much is Jalen Ellis. So he's probably the one that I'm a little more, high on of the group. But I do think, a lot of people are still holding out hope that Jackson could be a deep threat, a burner in the offense. And it just never really happened. He wasn't able to create separation with his releases. He wasn't able to become a proficient route runner. And when those things don't all come together, it's just hard to make an impact, especially in this offense where those things are just so very important.
So, Grayson, another name that was no longer on the roster, Jonah White there at running back. But I thought it was very interesting, Dave Aranda, in talking about the running backs. I mean, we knew coming in there's no starter. I mean, there's very little experience even in that group, but there's a lot of potential. And one of the storylines last year was kind of like, where's Josh Fleeks? And, then when he stuck around, what's he going to do? And he's moved to running back, and Aranda had some pretty glowing comments about him, talking about him not just being a guy that can play running back, but even be the guy for them. That was his words. Your thoughts on Josh Fleeks and him being back at that running back spot?
Yeah, I thought that was really, really interesting to hear him talk about Fleeks like that, because I do, just based on what I've seen so far and just the body makeup of these running backs, Josh Fleeks was the last guy that I would have been able to sit here and say, yeah, that guy is going to take over for Abram Smith. I mean, his body type, you just don't look at him and go, oh yeah, that guy could be Abram Smith in this offense, but I don't know that anyone on this roster can be Abram. I think this is more telling of kind of where their situation is at running back, and I do think it's going to be probably even more of a committee than we thought. I mean, coming into the year, I think we were kind of like, okay, Tay McWilliams, he might be the guy, but we know there's going to be a second guy, kind of like Ebner and Smith. I think there's a chance in this offense that there might be 3 or 4 guys this year, just because you got young guys, you got Josh Fleeks moving into the running back room, you got Squirrel Williams, what's he going to do? Is he going to get touches? You got Jordan Jenkins, who's a young, promising guy, but is he going to be able to hold up during an entire season? Is Tay McWilliams the guy that we saw glimpses of last year, or was that kind of more fool's gold, and does he need to get more consistent as well? So it's very interesting, but I think my main takeaway is that there's going to be a lot of guys getting carries in the Baylor backfield this year.
Well, Grayson, it's kind of an interesting point you bring up about the committee, because it's not like any of these guys that are on the roster right now weren't here last year. And I know that Jordan Jenkins was a true freshman, but if they felt that any of the guys could have done what they did, and Tay McWilliams is certainly part of that, then Abram Smith might have still been a linebacker.
Yeah, and that's very true. I mean, but on the flip side of that, Paul, Abram Smith just had the most prolific season ever for a running back, yards-wise at Baylor. So, honestly, it might not have even been, these guys aren't going to be able to do it, and it might have been that just Abram was so good. You know what I mean? Like, it might have been one of those things where it's like, how do we keep this guy off the field? How do we not put him at running back when we're seeing, kind of what he can do? So I'm hoping it's more of that. I'm hoping that Abram was just so good that they're like, all right, we got to make this move, as opposed to, man, there's no one else that's good. We have to move Abram there. So I'm going to continue to believe that it was more just Abram was awesome, Ebner was awesome, and it caused them to not be able to play any of the younger guys.
You were out at practice earlier this week. Did you get much of a chance to really look at the wide receivers group? Dallas Baker takes over there for Chancey Stuckey, and, some talent, but not a lot of proven just yet.
Yeah, guys. And I had a lot of notes kind of about this group and just from seeing them. And Baylor's had some amazing wide receiving cores in the past. We know this. There have been some elite groups at Baylor, but I have not seen one as physically imposing as this group. And it actually starts with Dallas Baker, the coach, because Dallas Baker is a massive human being. That guy was way bigger than I guess I thought he would be. You can only look up Wikipedia and see, his height and weight. You don't really get a sense of it till you see him out on the field. He's massive. And then you look at his wide receiving room and you're like, okay, wait, that guy's 6'3", that guy's 6'4", that guy's 6'3", that guy's 6'3". It was like one after another. You're looking at Elijah Bean, Javon Gibson, Hal Presley, Armani Winfield. I mean, it was just, the list went on and on of guys that you look at and you go, man, that guy is huge. What has he been doing this off season? Looks like he grew an inch or two. Armani Winfield's already like 6'2", 6'3", 200 pounds as a freshman. I mean, that's really impressive by him. And they look really, really good. Now, obviously, that has to be put onto the field. But when I saw them, I was like, man, he's got a group that he's going to be able to mold. And I think they're going to find, 3 or 4 guys that are really, really good in that group. And I think they're going to be really exciting. The only I guess there were a couple other takeaways. Monterey Baldwin looks really quick. He looks like, he's maybe poised to ascend to a larger role. Gavin Holmes looked healthy. I saw him out there cutting a little bit. And obviously every time I see him cut, I get a little nervous just because, we know his track record. But it was nice to see him going out there and feeling confident. Jalen Ellis was in the yellow, caution jersey, so I hope everything's okay with him. He was doing all the drills, but maybe just non-contact or something like that. So he's one that, they could really use to step up. Him and Gavin Holmes as older guys, veterans in that room, along with Seth Jones. Those guys, they really need those guys to be leaders on and off the field.
Grayson, anything popped up in the last couple of days that that maybe you noticed or thought about that we haven't talked about?
Yeah, so I mean, I think one that's really apparent is kind of this flip-flopping situation at the Jack and the Will linebacker spot. And the reason why I say that is because I think coming into the year, everyone was kind of trying to figure out, okay, so is Matt Jones going to start at Jack? Then who's going to start at Will? And then is Garmin Randolph going to be a backup? What's going to happen there? Or is Matt Jones going to play the Will? And it seems like all signs are pointing to that Matt Jones is going to move back to the Will linebacker position, essentially a position he played a little bit in high school before moving to an edge rusher at Odessa Permian. So he has some experience there. He played there in the Oklahoma State game as well when Terrell Bernard was out. So I think he looks like he's going to be locked in there, which I love, guys. And it's not because he's shown a ton at that position. He definitely has made mistakes at that spot, but I think he can get better. But the bigger reason why I like it is because it allows Garmin Randolph to get on the field more. And Garmin is a guy that I had just very, very high hopes for when he was recruited. Just such an athletic body and such a unique body at 6'7", 270 pounds. Just gives them something unique at the edge position. And when you have a defensive line that has Gabe Hall, Jackson Player, TJ Franklin, Siaki Ika, I mean, this is a loaded group. But when you have a guy next to them like Garmin Randolph, I just think it can bring really, really special things to their pass rush. So I really like that mindset. I think Matt Jones will do just fine at the Will position. I think they'll probably have to mix up some schemes and coverages to allow him to really thrive there. But I just love this for both Matt and Garmin. I think it's a big storyline that maybe some people haven't seen a ton of yet. But as spring goes, I think you're going to see that those two are going to really have nice years this season.
Grayson, final thing for you. I read that LJ Cryer note at the start of the segment. Any thoughts on what he had to say?
Yeah, I mean, it's tough because he's just been dealing with this injury all year, and he was so good to start this year. So that's really tough to see. And obviously there's been all kinds of, speculation about, what's going to happen with a lot of guys on the roster, including LJ. And so it seems really optimistic to me. It seems like he's ready to get going, ready to be back, at Baylor next year and have a great year. And so I'm hoping that's what that means. I think he's a terrific player, a terrific ambassador for the Baylor program as well. So I wish him all the best. I hope he can get healthy because, man, he was so good to start the year. Just one of the best shooters I've seen at Baylor in a long time. I mean, just such a confident shooter and a guy that Baylor could really, really use next year.
Grayson Grunhaver, SicEm365.com. Grayson, have a good weekend. We'll talk to you next week.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
There you go. Spring football underway, and we'll hear from Sean Bell a little bit later. Just about 5 minutes from him yesterday, Craig, on what he expects from the quarterbacks and what he sees. And is that the last time I think we'll see Sean Bell until a year from now?
Yeah, probably. Yeah, I mean, if it's anything like last year with Aranda, then yeah, we'll get some springtime to talk to these guys, and that'll be about it. So, that's fine. I would prefer if, we got kind of like they do at UT or at Oklahoma or some of these other places where you get the coordinators as much as you get the head coach. They have them up there, for a weekly thing. But, hey, people run their programs differently. And, last year one of the big things was Aranda having one message and not having a bunch of mixed messages coming from different directions. And it worked out pretty well for them, in the year that they had. So I think, you looked at all the chaos of that first year and different ideas, different systems, too many differences with that group. The chemistry wasn't right. And they got that chemistry right last year. And Dave Aranda was the one voice, and so I don't see why they would deviate from that. But it is good to hear from the assistants. And, I think, with Sean Bell, I mean, clearly Blake Shapen and leadership is a big thing. And with Gary, it's just basically proving you're the guy. But yeah, that'll probably be the last time for a while.
All right, when we come back, we'll talk Villanova. Joe Giuliano, Philadelphia Inquirer, talks about the surgical performance that Jay Wright and his team had last night. And then also in the 4 o'clock hour, Craig, I'm very curious to get your thoughts. Deshaun Watson met the media today in Cleveland. And, I mean, the Browns, there's no way to handle this that doesn't get you burned, which they've earned here with Deshaun Watson, but a really interesting exchange by Jake Trotter, who used to cover the Big 12. Jake used to cover the Big 12, covers the Browns now, where heck, he kind of won that press conference for me there, really going after the GM for some clarity on their extensive work on Deshaun Watson and what went into that. But we'll talk Villanova basketball when we come back. Sikkim 365 Radio, 365 Sports.
At Allen Samuels, come see the Wagoneer Series 2 and 3 with 2.9% for 72 months, plus $1,500 in bonus cash. For all first responders, get an extra $500. Shop this incredible vehicle that gives you performance, style, perfect for your family, and reliability your family deserves today from Allen Samuels in Waco. Come shop our huge inventory at Allen Samuels in Waco.
Come by. Let's be friends.
See dealer for details. All offers have credit requirements.
Don Humidor, your home with a 48-foot walk-in humidor with the elite cigar brands from around the world, including the #1 cigar of the year, Aging Room Cuatro Nicaragua. Plus, they have the great brands like Macanudo and Artur Fuente, Rocky Patel, Aston, and so much more. CBD, great for sore muscles, aches and pains, sleep, Vita Dreams, and anxiety, mild depression, general health and wellness. Their staff very knowledgeable on the subject. If anyone is curious about CBD, ask Carol and Ashley. Don Humidor in the Townwood Shopping Center off Valley Mills in Waco.
You know what would make this moment better? Pizza. Dough made from scratch and an Italian family sauce recipe pizza. 3 fresh signature cheeses making a melty blanket of perfection pizza. Like loads of premium toppings like crispy Old World pepperoni, savory Italian sausage, and fresh sliced veggies pizza. That's Marco's Pizza. Visit marcos.com and make any moment better. And with 4 locations in Waco, Belmead, China Spring, Woodway, and soon to open in Robinson. Marco's. Pizza lovers get it.
Baylor Scott and White, Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics, the team physicians for Baylor Athletics, diagnosing and treating all sports-related injuries, including concussions. These specialists also provide orthopedic services for athletes and non-athletes alike, whether it's knee or shoulder pain, hand or wrist injury, orthopedic spine care, and even an arthritis and total joint clinic. Trust the doctors Baylor Athletics trusts. Baylor Scott and White, Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics wants to get you back in the game.
It's plain and simple. Waco Custom Marketplace is the one-stop shop for what you need for tailgating, from charcoal, cold beer, and wine. And, of course, customize your order with brisket, tri-tip, sausage, wings, smoked pork tenderloin, country-style or pork spare ribs, marinated beef and chicken fajita meat, ground beef and chili, meat, hot dogs, and burgers, buns, seasoning, sauces, chips. There's fresh baked bread and kolaches every day, breakfast sausage links, and you can also customize your favorite cut of steaks from Select, Choice, or Prime, bacon wrapped fillets, ribeyes, New York strip, sirloin, T-bone, and porterhouse. Full service butcher shop includes pork, poultry, beef, chicken, and seafood, serving Waco restaurants and families since 1940. Your one-stop shop for beef, pork, poultry, and seafood needs. Waco Custom Marketplace, 425 Lake Erie Drive, or WacoCustomMarketplace.com.
Automatic Chef Canteen is a full-service micro-market vending and office coffee provider with state-of-the-art vending equipment, a wide variety of products, and offering custom-fitted micro-market vending office coffee solutions for your employee break room. You want a full break room solution and a workplace oasis? Well, Automatic Chef Canteen, locally owned and operated for over 50 years in Central Texas, also includes in-house mechanics on call 24/7 for fast, reliable service and maintenance. Automatic Chef Canteen, 6900 Imperial Drive in Waco, or online at automaticchefcanteen.com.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio.
A lot of window dressing here on 2nd and goal. Smith comes back into the backfield. They run Bohannon with blockers in front and into the end zone. Gary Bohannon.
The 4 o'clock hour is sponsored by Boozer's Jewelers, the wedding ring store, specializing in custom jewelry and repair, all in-house.
Now here's Paul Catalina and Craig Smoak.
Welcome back, Sikkim 365 Radio, 365 Sports. We are into the Sweet 16, and we talked Duke and Texas Tech earlier. We talked Kansas and Providence. Villanova beats Michigan last night, and Joe Giuliano, Philadelphia Inquirer, joins us now. And Joe, Villanova was classic Jay Wright last night. Tough defense, passing the ball. Was there a little nervousness given that Michigan had this huge chip on their shoulder as they're in the Sweet 16, and, 2 weeks ago when it was Selection Sunday, a lot of people didn't think they should have been there, and here they are in the Sweet 16.
Oh yeah, well, they I think earned their spot in the tournament. Michigan, I don't think there's any question about that. I think the thing that concerned Villanova the most last night was, the two big guys. I mean, Dickinson, everybody knows about, a very dominant player inside. The other one was Diakite, who, is also taller than any starter Villanova had, or anybody on the roster for that matter. So I think they were very concerned in those two areas. But, man, I'll tell you, they played about as good a defensive game as I've seen them play, like ever. The defense has been very strong now through 3 games in the NCAA tournament. They haven't allowed more than 60 in any of them, I don't think. Well, Ohio State was 61, but that was a game that was already out of reach when they hit 61. And Delaware was 60, Michigan 55. So, I mean, they are really showing up on the defensive end, even when their offense doesn't exactly click all the time. The defense has been constant, and I think that's really helped them get to the Elite Eight.
Joe, and another thing that helped them last night, I mean, Jermaine Samuel's doing a little bit of everything for them. How good was he, and how important was that?
Jermaine he's a fantastic player. I mean, obviously, his freshman year, he was hurt by injuries, and I don't think he really knew exactly what his place was on the team. But he's really come along, and he's the kind of guy who does anything the team needs. I mean, there are times when he passes up a 5-footer to get his teammate a better shot behind the 3-point line. Sometimes it's a little frustrating, like shoot it already. But he knows exactly the right play to make, whether it's shooting like he did last night, 22 points, probably one of his best, if not the best, scoring performance he's had all season. And, just doing all the little things. He had 7 rebounds last night, a pair of blocks, a pair of steals, blew by Dickinson for a couple of really key inside baskets. He's really done it all, and I think it comes from the maturity. Obviously, being a fifth-year player and coming back for that fifth year allowed by COVID has really shown that he's, quite the versatile, helpful player, a great complementary player who can, step forward and carry the team for a little bit. So, all I was thinking when I was watching him last night was, geez, I hope an NBA team takes a look at him because I think he could really help somebody.
Early in the year, Joe, we had you on after they played Baylor the first time, which was kind of I don't want to say the crescendo of Baylor season, but Baylor was at their best, at their healthiest. And Villanova, that time in their season, to kind of hit them at a crossroads where, every time they played a team that was, you look down in this tournament, they were losing those games. What has changed down the stretch for them to where they have kicked it into a gear where I do not want to see Villanova if I'm anybody else in this tournament.
Right. Yeah. Well, I think it's just basically hard work. Obviously, Baylor blew them out. 4 days later, they went to Creighton, and Creighton beat them by 20. It's just one of those deals where, Jay Wright says, okay, no panic. Let's just get back to work. Let's get back to the practice and see what we can do. And let's look at the film and see what we can do better. And I think that's been the case, since the Big East entered February. They had a tough loss at UConn, but they've, won some games, some big games. They won, obviously, 3 games in the Big East tournament, now 3 games in the NCAA tournament. And I think it's just hard work. These guys work hard. Jay pushes them. The assistants push them. And, they just do what they need to do. But, like I said, defensively, they're playing as well as they've ever played. And offensively, they're coming up with the key shots. Like last night, with, Samuels making that drive past Dickinson, followed by Gillespie 3. Gillespie was only like 4 for 12 last night, I think, from 3, but one was a big one. But yeah, they just stay with it. Stay with it. Nobody gets discouraged. And, somebody said they watched an interview of Villanova players and it says they all say the same things. They all sound alike. Well, that's pretty much how they work because they're all committed to each other. That's pretty much what the Villanova basketball philosophy is.
Joe, it's an exciting matchup coming up. Have you had much of an opportunity, whether it was last night or previously, to watch the Houston Cougars and Kelvin Sampson?
I haven't had a chance to do much, especially last night. You're
right.
I said I should be watching Houston, but I'm watching Coach K because Texas Tech had them on the ropes and probably should have beaten them, but Duke came up with a great finish to the game. But having seen Houston, sporadically over the last 2 or 3 years because they play in the same conference as Temple, another Philly team.
Yeah.
They rebound like crazy. They can play tough defense. Their shots don't always go in, but it leaves another opportunity for them off the offensive boards. I mean, they're just a hustling team, and I'm watching the game, after the Duke game ended, I'm watching the last 5-6 minutes of Houston, Arizona, and I'm thinking, man, if I'm a Villanova fan, I'd rather play Arizona, who I personally had at the top of the bracket, thinking they'd win it all. And I don't think anybody wants to play Houston right now. In fact, I understand Houston is a slight favorite for this game. So, they are tough and they are playing, very confident basketball, and they have a lot of momentum. There's no question about it. And I think it's going to be a really, really tough challenge for Villanova, who is not exactly the most athletic team under the boards. They were out rebounded by Michigan, although they picked up their offensive rebounding in the second half. But, Houston's a whole different ball game right there.
If you look at the team last year to this year, obviously the biggest difference is Gillespie's there. He's playing, he's healthy, and he's back. How much does he elevate them to the level that they were a couple of years ago when they were winning the national title?
Yeah, well, he was there in 2018 when they won. He was a backup playing like 10, 12 minutes a game, and I think he learned a lot from that game, and I think he learned a lot, too, from Jalen Brunson. That's the way Villanova has done it with point guards, is that each point guard has taught the one behind him. Like you had Ryan Arcidiacono winning the 2016 national title in Houston. Then you had him tutoring Jalen Brunson, who also played in the Final Four. And now Brunson came along and tutored Gillespie. So, it's been just really a seamless transition from one to the next to the next. And Gillespie has been pretty special because, first of all, he's gotten to play a fifth year, which Arcidiacono played 4 years, Brunson played 3, and here's Gillespie playing 5, and he really knows everything that Jay Wright wants to do before even Jay Wright tells him what to do. He just knows what to do, and that's how it's worked out for Villanova. And Colin is the guy who leads. I mean, he is the leader in the locker room, in the study halls, in the dining room. I mean, he is very much in control of this team. In fact, there was one point I think it was in the Big East tournament. I can't remember. It was the St. John's game because they were down by double digits in the first game against St. John's. And apparently, Jay Wright looked at Gillespie during one timeout. He says, would you please take control of your bleeping team? and that was pretty much all Gillespie needed to hear. They came back from a double-digit deficit to beat St. John's and have been, pretty smooth ever since, with their performances.
So, Joe, we know we got Houston, Villanova with a trip to the Final Four on the line. On the opposite side of the bracket, got Arkansas and Duke, and then the other two matchups obviously to be determined later tonight. But any thoughts on just the way you've seen that bracket kind of unfold, especially after last night's results? Some ones falling, and looking at the potential matchups. Houston's obviously like the priority, and that's going to be tough enough as it is. But just kind of looking ahead a little bit, if you have, what are your thoughts on the way the tournament's played out?
Well, it's been a lot of surprises. There's no doubt about it. I mean, you have a 15 in the Sweet 16 in St. Peter's, which will be playing tonight in Philadelphia, of all places. That's they're the home team pretty much. They're the closest to Philly, so that's worked out pretty well for them. And then we have a 10 versus an 11, Miami against Iowa State, which is pretty spectacular. I mean, everybody was down on the ACC all year, and Carolina's still alive. Duke obviously is still alive, and Miami has played awfully well. They have a Philly kid on their team, Isaiah Long. So, it's just the way the NCAA tournament usually operates. Surprising results. I mean, I don't think anybody expected that we'd have one number 1 seed left, and of course we're still in the Sweet 16 as far as Kansas is concerned. But they're going to have a tough game tonight as well against Providence. Providence is a hell of a team. Everybody in the Big East was saying, well, Providence is winning, but they're lucky. But hey, no, they can play. They have some tough guys. I mean, they have a team. If you take their average age of their starting 5 and put them up against a young NBA team like the Pistons, you're like, oh my God, Providence has a higher average age than the Pistons do. So, I wouldn't sell Providence short against Kansas tonight either. But it's been a fun tournament to watch, and I'll tell you, I've watched my share of games this last couple of weeks. I can't remember one game to the next, but it's been fun.
Yeah, the guys on the Providence team will talk about their mortgages together. They
yeah, right.
That's not a young team at all. Well, Joe, enjoy the tournament. Enjoy Villanova's run for the rest of the time. And just St. Peter's, you mentioned that they're so close. Will they bring? I mean, from Jersey City, will that be? I know it's a small school, but will they have a large contingent of people?
I'd say they'd have a large contingent of people, but I think there's just going to be people there saying, man, this is a great story. I want to see this team play. This team is pretty cool to watch. But, of course, playing Purdue, I mean, Purdue's got excellent players, and they've got players who are taller than the St. Peter Peacocks players. So we'll see what happens. But it's going to be a fun night in Philly, there's no doubt.
Joe Giuliano, Philadelphia Inquirer. Joe, thank you so much. Always great to have you on the show.
Hey, thanks for having me back, guys. Great talking to you.
There you go. And I think they'd be interesting in Philly if they somehow Jack Closier's won that game. I think that place would just go nuts.
Oh yeah, of course. Yeah. I mean, I don't think, like he said though, I don't think it matters if it's in Los Angeles. Yeah. So I think it's just the Cinderella story, and we embrace that Cinderella every single year, no matter who it is. And it just so happens that we're probably. I don't know. It just feels like because a lot of the top of the tournament got wiped out here over the last few days that they're becoming more of a focus, and rightfully so. I mean, to get to the Sweet 16 is a heck of an accomplishment, and they're just another in a long list of teams that we'll remember. To what extent, though? I mean, that's the question. Are they going to get to the Elite Eight, and we're still talking about them in a few days, or Final Four even? I know that's kind of seems unlikely, but you never know. I mean, here they are. And again, who had them at the Sweet 16 point? I mean, maybe some people did out there, but I think certainly a lot of people have been saying the name St. Peter's more than they in the last week than they have probably in their entire lifetime. So that says what kind of a job that they're doing, and would love to see them keep it going. I do think it's interesting that Houston game will be in San Antonio, and wonder how much of a crowd that'll bring, speaking of crowds for the Cougars to have that.
Hakeem was there last night.
The Dream, the Dream in attendance. So, that's awesome just to see, Phi Slamma Jamma getting called back. So, I would imagine he'll be around. Maybe Clyde the Glide will be around and get all the rest of the band back together as best they can. But, Houston and San Antonio, that ought to be a hell of a crowd. And loving what the Cougs are doing, man. Hope they can keep it up.
Yeah, so, it should be interesting. I mean, tonight's going to be really interesting. This weekend's going to be really interesting. You're not going to have kind of a blah matchup from here on out. But, of course, it's a Sweet 16, but even still, some really cool storylines going on. When we come back, Deshaun Watson met the media in Cleveland for the first time today, and I would say it didn't go well. I mean, he handled it the way you'd expect, but I mean, they kind of leave you have an hour-long press conference that you leave with more questions than answers. It's frustrating, and we'll talk about that next.
I want to come back to a note on Mike Gundy and his contract as well with Oklahoma State.
His lifetime contract?
No, but okay. They have bumped it up, and so Gundy settling even further. He's already, his butt imprints on the couch in Stillwater. He's been around so long at this point, but he's settling in even further after the news today. So we'll get to that as well.
This is Sick 'em 365 Radio, 365 Sports. Riverbend Liquor and Wine, Lakeshore Drive and North 19th Street here in Waco, Hidden Gem. Look, it's the weekend. It's Friday. If you're heading out to a party, going to a crawfish boil, whatever you're doing, want to stop by and pick up some beer, some wine, and all that, it is the best place to go. Their customer service is second to none. Great drive-through window. It's really fast. So even if you saw a line tonight as you're going by, don't worry about it. They'll have you in and out really quickly. Plus, if you're talking about craft beer, they've got the best selection in town. High-end bourbons, best selection in town. Wine, best selection in town. They have got it. They're always changing up the products, always having new stuff in there. So they're always going to have new stuff to try, new stuff to experiment with, new stuff to see what you can make. At Riverbend Liquor and Wine, Lakeshore Drive, North 19th Street. Find out more on Facebook and Instagram.
With so many companies and policies out there, it gets so confusing shopping for insurance, and I never know if I'm getting the policy that's right for me. Luckily, I met the team at the Niche Group Insurance Agency. With the Niche Group, you can go to one company and get access to coverage options from many insurance carriers, and you get to speak to a real person about your specific coverage needs. With the Niche Group, I know I'm getting the right coverage at the right price. If you need insurance, talk to the experts at the Niche Group at 1-800-258-8302.
Do you or your kids get nervous about going to the dentist? Stonewood Dental, Dr. Steve Childress, he can help.
I've spent a career taking care of patients who as children had bad experiences, and now they're adults that hate going to the dentist. If I get a kid at 3 years old and they come every 6 months and it's a happy experience, it's normal for them. Now they have an accident at 6 or 7 or 8 at school. Now they have a broken tooth or a trauma, and they have to come here. They're used to lights, they're used to water in their mouth, they're used to experience, they already trust us. It's amazing what we can do with that kid without it being a negative thing. But if I see a 6 or 7 or 8 year old that's never been to the dentist, and now they have a trauma or an unfortunate unexpected toothache, it's harder to do that for that kid and it not be somewhat of a negative experience. So bottom line is I try to teach kids and adults and teenagers and everybody the way I'd want my family treated, which is where it's a necessary part of life. You just take care of it. It doesn't have to be that big a deal.
Learn more, stonewood-dental.com.
One size fits all. That may be all right for an adjustable belt or cheap sunglasses, but when it comes to your financial needs, no one wants a one-size-fits-all strategy. Cam Heathcott, your Edward Jones financial advisor, knows that his most important goals are yours. That's why he takes the time to understand your needs, knowing you. That's how Edward Jones makes sense of investing. Cam Heathcott, covering Conroe and Houston, 936-756-7717 or cam.heathcott@edwardjones.com. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
Let Camille Johnson Realtors guide you seamlessly through the process of buying your dream home or selling your current one. Commercial, farm and ranch, or residential, Camille Johnson Realtors can smoothly and successfully lead you through any transaction. With a team of 28 experienced agents who are excited about serving you, Camille Johnson Realtors services the entire greater Waco area. If you're in the market to buy or sell, contact Camille Johnson Realtors, 104 Midway Center in Woodway, or find them online at www.camillejohnson.com. Camille Johnson Realtors, elegant, charming, warm. Welcome home.
Brad Boozer, Boozer's Jeweler, joins us on Sikkim 365 Radio. Boozer's Jewelers on the corner of Valley Mills and Lake Air Drive. It's a staple of the Waco economy. And you're about to approach this time of the year where you have the holidays, special gifts. It's not that you don't have that every single day. What are some of the things you have coming up?
You know, we kind of call ourselves the wedding ring store. We do all of our own custom work in-house. I've got 2 expert jewelers on staff every day. We can make anything from scratch. We kind of pride ourselves, probably 9 out of 10 every engagement ring we do is actually made custom to what the customer wants.
People look at that, oh my God, I can't afford it. I can't afford something like that. You've shown me examples that you could fit pretty much any budget.
It doesn't cost any more to custom make something. You still have gold, you still have diamonds, and you still have labor. Best thing about a custom piece is if you have any old jewelry or heirloom jewelry or something passed down from a grandma or somebody, we can take that jewelry and use it towards your wedding ring for the sentimental value, and then you've got the product, and then it's just a little bit of labor and a little bit of design on your part of what you actually want.
You want to know why they're successful? Brad Boozer, the owner of Boozer's Jewelers on the corner of Valley Mills and Lake Air in Waco.
This is Sikkim 365 Radio. Text us at 254-339-1122. The Sikkim 365 Radio text line is sponsored by Riverbend Liquor and Wine, with the most extensive variety of craft beer in Waco. A hidden gem on Lakeshore Drive and 19th Street.
Welcome back. Sikkim 365 Radio, 365 Sports. Paul, Catalina, Craig Smoak. Smokey is out today playing golf. And Craig, I teased this before the break, and I know that you have some stuff you want to get to as well. But Deshaun Watson met the media in Cleveland for the first time today. And look, this is, I mean, a lot focused on the investigation that the Browns supposedly did into Deshaun Watson. He didn't answer a question very well about why do you have 22 massage therapists. Most guys just have 1 or 2. Like the team sets them up with some people, and that's where they go. You know, you kind of have the person that you go to, and that's it. Why he's going on social media for massage therapists when you're Deshaun Watson, like none of it made sense, you know, based on what normally happens. And then the questions into the investigation on, you know, why do the Browns feel that they'd vetted him enough? Jake Trotter from ESPN asked General Manager Andrew Berry. Andrew,
do you want to just go? I think it'd be better. Yeah. How about you play Jake Trotter and I'll play Andrew Berry?
Okay. Yeah. All right. Okay. Andrew, just to be clear, nobody from the Browns or representing the Browns spoke to any of the 22 women who made allegations, correct?
Like I mentioned earlier in my opening statement, Jake, our attorneys advised us that reaching out directly could be considered interfering with a criminal investigation, but that's the reason we did hire independent investigators, to make sure that we could get that comprehensive and holistic perspective.
So you're saying the investigators you hired did speak to the women?
I'll say the investigators that we hired were able to get a full perspective of all the cases.
Not speak to them.
I'm going to say a full perspective of all the cases. I'm not going to go into necessarily the details of everything the investigators did, but they got a full perspective for all the criminal and civil cases, Jake.
So if they did speak to the women, what is the basis for calling your investigation extensive, or, as you put in your statement on Sunday, also given the fact that some of the women haven't given sworn testimony yet, they don't have anything on the record?
So again, Jake, I'll refer back to my statement. The independent and unbiased investigators were able to be comprehensive in all the information that they were able to bring forth. Some of the information, quite honestly, I understand can't necessarily be public, but we do feel good about the work that we did. We feel good about the work that the investigators did for us. We got a comprehensive perspective of all the cases. So there was that combo.
How do you feel about that, Craig?
I think he just repeated word salad over and over again, basically, to not answer the question. I think he answered the question by not answering the question. And Jake Trotter obviously trying to make a point with his questioning. But, yeah, I can see where this comes across poorly for Andrew Berry, and does not very that does not really clear up anything, quite frankly, in terms of the Browns and their investigation, because, again, he's just speaking in generalities about this extensive investigation, and just because you call it extensive doesn't mean it's extensive, and I don't know that we'll really know how extensive it truly was. And honestly, man, with this story and the back and forth, I don't think the Browns really care. I just don't think that they care. I don't think that most NFL teams do if they can land Deshaun Watson on their football team, and it's been proven time and time again. Pretty much every team in the league at some point or another has, grabbed a player and overlooked or pushed to the side, maybe something that they're accused of. And look, accusations are not guilty charges either. So I'm trying to be as mindful as possible that Deshaun Watson is innocent until proven guilty, no matter how many women said what they had to say. You have to respect their claims, of course, but that doesn't also mean that he's guilty just because people are accusing him of something. But it is weird, man. I mean, 22 women, it's weird. It's hard to get past that, but I don't think, to your question, Andrew Berry really did much to clear up anything, nor give anybody any sense of relief that they went above and beyond to really make sure this was, not just a fit for their football team, but also, the right type of person they're bringing in. I don't know that we know that.
Yeah, and look, Deshaun Watson was someone who was character-wise very well thought of until all this went down.
As good as anybody.
Yeah.
I mean, Dabo, talked constantly about Deshaun Watson, and you got nothing but talk about what a great leader and person and all that he was. And look, he very well, again, may still be. And just the guy who's caught on the wrong end of some bad luck with women. I mean, again, though, it's 22, and the whole massage therapist aspect to this does make it a bit strange. But, yeah, prior to this, I mean, this was – if you were to make a list of guys who you say, okay, somebody who's not really ever been in trouble or has never been in trouble – pick a guy who would be the most unlikely dude to be named to a 22 accusation sexual assault massage therapist story. I think people would go a lot of different directions before they would have landed on Deshaun Watson. Not so much now, obviously, but before all this broke, yeah. I mean, I never would have saw this coming. I don't know how many people would have. And if there were people that thought this was possible, they did a really good job of hiding it along the way, given how much exposure he received over the years.
Yeah, and look, he's now 2 grand juries haven't indicted him. So
yeah,
the thing about this is there was and Rusty Hardin knew this. Rusty Hardin is not in the position he's in by losing a lot.
Well, he's a lawyer that we can name by name, and that's not normal in sports to be able to just, Rusty Hardin, and pretty much anybody who follows knows, the lawyer, lawyers aren't big figures in sports. Yeah. I mean, they are, but we're not supposed to know their names the way we know Rusty Hardin's name.
Yeah. So exactly. We don't know his name because he's losing a lot.
Right.
So he had to know that there wasn't a whole lot of evidence that would have, brought criminal charges about. But this is kind of, and maybe the kind of crux of this in the way that it'll move on is, look, the Browns kind of told you, look, we did enough to satisfy our own curiosity, and that's all that really matters to us.
Yeah, they feel like they've done their due diligence and done enough work to make this happen, and they said they spent 5 months on it, and he said, Andrew Berry, that it was extensive. That was clearly the buzzwords that they had settled on before his press conference because he used it so often, but they're sticking to their guns. I mean, they feel like they've done the work that they needed to do to feel good about bringing Deshaun Watson in. Deshaun Watson, I know, spoke as well, which I'm sure you'll get to, and he's somebody who's got to feel like he's got his freedom back in a way after just all of the uncertainty of the last few months. But I mean, I think it just depends on who you ask in terms of this story. I think there's probably a lot of people who play fantasy football and really couldn't care less or really have too much empathy for other people that are just like, oh, well, they're lying and Deshaun Watson's on my fantasy team, so go him. And then there's a lot of other people who, have nothing against Deshaun Watson, but hear that story and probably do wonder a bit like, okay, well, how does that even happen? Because, we see guys get blackmailed, their stars, have baby mamas try to bring them down and all that. But again, 22 women and several massage therapists and just kind of a weird deal. It makes you wonder, but the Browns seem to be confident in what they did, so we will see as far as that goes.
Yeah. Watson said in the press conference, I know these allegations are very, very serious, but I've never assaulted any woman. I never disrespected any woman. And I mean, that's a matter of perspective. I mean, clearly you did something to some of them that they didn't feel was right. And he also says, Craig, that he doesn't intend to settle these cases, that he's gonna fight them as long as he can because he wants to clear his name. And look, more power to him if that's what he's gonna do. It just this just doesn't happen when there's nothing going on. And I think that's what I'll always be uncomfortable with when you talk about Deshaun Watson. And what will happen with Deshaun Watson is what happened with Ben Roethlisberger, sadly, is that Ben Roethlisberger had two different incidents. He was suspended for a little while, and the minute he threw about the third or fourth touchdown pass when he came back, nobody talked about it anymore. That's what's going to happen with Deshaun Watson and the Browns. If he starts winning for a team that classically doesn't win, people will forget all about it.
No, I mean, there's still a good contingent of fans that would bring up the Big Ben stuff, but it just wasn't loud enough for it to really matter.
Yeah.
And plus, when you bring up stuff like that, it's like fans who don't say a single word about Baylor, and all of a sudden Baylor wins something big, and they want to bring up, the rape scandal. It's like, okay, well, where was that last week? Where was that? Why is it all of a sudden after your team loses to them that you want to, bring that up? So I think with Big Ben, it became one of those things where there was a certain party of people who never let it go, and then a lot of us who just kind of moved on, and then would hear it brought up after he'd beat the Browns, or and Browns fans would say something, but it still lingers, just not enough to have hurt his career really at all. And he's not the only example of that either. There's plenty of others, but in the case of Deshaun Watson, I'd imagine it'll probably be some of the same. There's still the civil suits to clean up, and those will keep it in the news headlines for a while longer. But he addressed those, and he said he's not going to back down or give in to settlements. So that still has to play out. But once that does, and I don't know what the time frame is on that. I mean, he'll basically just be a guy who had these incidents and put it past him. But there will be those who definitely look at him differently and maybe always use that against him no matter what he does or does not do the rest of his life. And then there will be a lot of people who just kind of move on and watch him throw that pigskin around.
Yeah, and look, I don't think we can.
I don't know. I wasn't there. I don't know any of what happened.
Yeah.
I mean, I tend to. At least the very bare minimum we can do as people is listen to these women and take their allegations seriously, and then let the court system do what it does. And that's all we can really do. But for me to sit there, it's very odd, the number of allegations and just the situation itself. It does make you scratch your head a little bit that this was even a possibility for him to get into this mess, because who has 24 massage therapists or whatever? That's very strange, and I don't know that we'll ever get a real explanation for what was going on there. But it's a messy deal, and you have to at least be understanding and compassionate towards these women. But, when it comes down to the court of law, if the court of law says Deshaun Watson's, not guilty and he's free to go play football, that's what the court of law says. And you could feel differently about it. But as far as enforcing anything, I mean, that's the court system. So, that it is what it is in that regard, and he's free to play football.
Yeah, absolutely. So,
and I hope that if somehow magically there was 24 mysterious allegations that appeared out of thin air, then I hope that's exposed. I hope that's exposed. I think it's too often times when there are false allegations against people, the story just quickly goes away once that's found out. It's like, let's harp on it and harp on it and harp on it. This guy is a POS and he's garbage and rapist and all this stuff, and then you find out that maybe the person was lying, and then they just don't talk about the story anymore. Like, it just goes away, basically. So I hope that, in this case, if it does turn out that 24 allegations were all false, that Deshaun Watson gets his redemption and gets his name cleared and all of that. I don't think there's a snowball's chance in hell of that happening anytime soon, or maybe even ever. But if it were to, I mean, he does deserve some justice. But on the other hand, if he is guilty of what he's alleged to have been a part of, then I hope one day that comes out as well, and he pays the price for that.
Yeah. The interesting thing to me is see how many of these people wanted money and how many of them don't want money.
Yeah.
Because the ones that don't want money, if they've got, I mean, those are the ones you got to watch, because they,
I mean, that's a little complicated too, because I don't think, I don't know. I mean, I never haven't been in that situation. I think it's really hard to say. And I think sometimes, that may be a lawyer's advice. That may be we don't want you to drag you through this process for another year or two, and hey, go ahead and take the check and just put this behind you and live the best life that you can live. It doesn't make up for what happened, but hopefully it helps ease the pain, kind of thing. So I look at it from that perspective as well. But yeah, it's complicated, obviously.
Yeah. All right, Craig, you mentioned Mike Gundy getting a pay bump.
Yeah, well, if you remember back in 2020, the whole OAN thing. Is it OAN or OANN?
OAN.
OAN, okay.
One American News.
Okay, he wore that shirt, and everybody lost their minds over it, and he actually, got his contract knocked a little bit back when that happened. But Oklahoma State did announce today that Mike Gundy is receiving an increase in annual compensation of $1 million. He'll also receive an annual retention bonus of $1 million all over the next 5 years, and that increases his compensation annually to for this upcoming year, to $7.5 million. There were other terms, including a $125,000 annual escalator and an annual 1-year extension. Those will remain in place with the contract. It was approved today by their Board of Regents. And there was a bunch of, your typical school press release quotes, the great job he's done and all of that. But, following a terrific season where they came up just short in the Big 12 championship and, obviously just had a great year overall, he's getting, a little bit of a bump back. So based on this and what I saw, that means he's now the highest paid coach in the Big 12. And, of course, we don't know Dave Aranda's contract numbers. I don't believe we would know Sonny Dykes' either. With TCU being private. But outside of that, there are guys making very close to this, and so he's not like blowing away the field, but he is now the highest paid coach and quite frankly deserves to be. He's been around as long as he has. He's won as many games as he has, and he did the job that he did last year. Yeah, Mike Gundy deserves to be the highest paid head coach in the Big 12, and as of today, he is for right now.
Yeah, he's 80 games over 500. He's always in bowl games. It's what you want, and he's... Look, and I said it the other day. I kind of cast him as a certain kind of a coach for a little while, and I think he proved me wrong, particularly last year. Yeah,
he changed. He was a young kind of a punk kid when he was younger, quite frankly. In those like early Oklahoma State Oklahoma wars, he had to go up against Big Bad Bob Stoops and the machine that was OU at that time, and still sort of is to this day. But yeah, and then he was kind of just a young coach, and you're young, you do things that you don't do 10 years, 20 years later after the fact. I think he's just matured, and, he's got tons more experience now, and he's been through some trials and tribulations, whether it was Bobby Reed and I'm a man, I'm 40, or whether it's the OAN shirt or just little miscalculations he's made along the way. I think he's done a hell of a job. If you had asked me that punk young head coach that I saw on the sidelines years and years, like in the early 2000s, I never would have guessed that he'd be in 2022, the highest paid coach in the Big 12. But that's a testament to the job that he's done for a very long time now. And, they were just an inch or two away from being in the playoff last year, if not for just a terrific defensive play and kind of just a weird set of circumstances. I know they've gone back and analyzed that play, and Oklahoma State has seen every angle that if he cuts up here, if he cuts up here. And so, they were that close where they probably should have been Big 12 champions with the opportunity that they had at the end of that game. But, that's a credit to Baylor, and I'm sure that makes them hungry for this year, knowing the missed opportunity.
Yeah, and I kind of thought about 4 or 5 years ago, it looked like he was trying to springboard to the SEC or somewhere else because it looked like he was kind of getting, tired of the rigmarole, and now he's I got a perpetual 5-year contract so every year it's a 5-year contract and he gets a raise or whatever. And he lost some money on like all the things that happened, he gave back and they get, it all went down and he handled that as well as you can because he wound up not losing any players for it. At least not on his roster. Maybe there are a couple of recruits that might have changed their mind, but ultimately they just had the best season they've had in 15 years. So it didn't ultimately matter.
No, and he, that got really probably exaggerated and blown up way beyond what it needed to be simply because of the time period that we were in. You know, it was so supercharged with emotions and talk of race and, just the battles that we have as people and like all of that was swirling in the air. Just 2020 was bizarre, but, definitely a bad choice in hindsight. I don't think he threw on that shirt trying to make any type of a statement necessarily, but, that's not going to stop people who want to, absolutely hate everything about the other side politically, even if they're just wearing a random T-shirt. But, he got over that. They PR-wise, they were able to handle that pretty quickly. And like you said, it didn't affect the team. Hell, the team came out and, had a great year. So, he's planted his roots in Stillwater. They've been growing for a while now, and I did think there was a chance that he would pick them up and leave here in the last few years, but I think he's settling in even further, if anything, and that bodes well for Oklahoma State.
Yeah, the shirt to me wasn't as bad as the explanation for wearing the shirt with "I didn't know."
Yeah, that was.
And then you're like, well, if you watch the channel, then what are you doing?
Yeah.
But I mean, he came through it. I mean, plenty of.
But if he was wearing I don't care one iota about that network.
Yeah.
I mean, not any of them. I don't care about any of them. I hate politics with an absolute passion. But we all know if he was wearing a different network, it wouldn't have been as big of a deal.
Yeah.
And that was part of what made it so supercharged.
Yeah, look, if it was CNN, people would
exactly.
have been like, hey,
nobody would have said any word about it.
He went on the tour in Atlanta.
Yeah.
He went to the gift shop. That's all they would have said. So, yeah, it's very true. I mean, you can get into real splitting hairs when it comes to that. So, we'll take a break right here. When we come back, do we want to do Sean Bell here, or do you want to do him in the 5 o'clock hour, Craig?
It doesn't matter to me. Whatever is up to you.
Okay. Armstrong is telling us in the 5 o'clock hour. Okay. So we'll come back here. We'll read some of your texts and some of the chat, which we haven't gotten to do just yet on the show today. We'll do that when we come back. This, Sigum 365 Radio, 365 Sports.
Richard Carr, Buick GMC Cadillac. Get on that inbound vehicle list right now. If you are looking for a new or pre-owned vehicle, the quickest way to get that vehicle into your hands and into your driveway is to get on Richard Carr's inbound vehicle list. Right now, they're celebrating a big anniversary. They've been in Central Texas for a long time, and they are trying to get cars off of their lot right now at Richard Carr. So if you want to get, again, into a vehicle as fast as humanly possible, well, give them a call today or go by the dealership and tell them you want to get on that inbound vehicle list so that you can get in a new Buick, GMC, or Cadillac SUV, truck, or car as soon as possible. And they've got great deals going on at Richard Carr. A lot of people looking for new cars. It's a little bit harder to come by, chip shortages and all of that, but they do have new rides available. GMC trucks, GMC Buick and Cadillac SUVs. New vehicles are arriving daily. For qualified buyers, you can buy a truck now and get 0% financing for 72 months on most GMC vehicles and Buick SUVs. And right now, you're looking up. It's sunny outside. The weather's getting warm. That means it's summer vacation time right around the corner. You want to take a trip with the friends or with the family. Well, you want to be in a vehicle, especially if you're driving across country, that you can feel confident in. So as summer vacation season approaches, know that Richard Carr has 11 different SUV models from the Buick, GMC, and Cadillac brands, as well as dozens of trim options as well, so you can really get that specific type of ride and look that you want. And Richard Carr is a one-stop shop to find that perfect SUV for your needs, starting at $24K. So call now, go by the dealership now, or go online to find the perfect SUV for your family this summer. And not only do they have the new vehicles, which again, get on that inbound vehicle list to get those as soon as possible, but they have premium pre-owned cars and trucks as well that have all gone through a 172-point inspection before hitting the lot, so you can check out their wide variety of used cars as well. But a lot of options for you. Richard Carr, it's a big anniversary month. They celebrate over 23 years in the automotive business and many years here in Central Texas with great customer service. Trust the good local people you can count on for 23 years in Central Texas. Proud Wacoans, proud Baylor Bears. Log on to richardcarr.com today. Call now or go see them now off Highway 6 at the Imperial exit.
From the first workout to the last practice, sports is an incredible and rewarding challenge. Hi, this is Dan Ingham with the First National Bank of Central Texas, and we're proud to support each athlete, every parent, and our educators. From families, small businesses, to the biggest industry, we're here to help. With remarkable products like our free First mobile app, we've got banking ideas that fuel big dreams. That's the First National Bank of Central Texas. Familiar faces making local decisions.
Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
Shorty's Pizza Shack at 12th and Bagby is a homegrown, family-owned and operated must-visit pizza place in Waco. Fantastic pizza by the slice or get the whole pie to share. Great happy hour specials every single day, and it's not just pizza. Great wings. You have to try the Sikkim sauce, chili cheese fries, pizza pillows, and more. Dine in for a great hangout or carry-out. Order online at shortyspizzashack.com or do yourself a favor and bring your crew to the restaurant at 12th and Bagby. Shorty's Pizza Shack. Tell them Paul sent you by. Three Nations Brewing Company has 16 different beers on draft with a new beer every Friday. It also offers 2 air-conditioned tap rooms, a large indoor beer hall, a second-floor mezzanine offering a great overview of the brewing company and equipment and patio where you can relax under the shade. Plus, you can now experience the new Three Nations Beer Garden Grill on our shaded patio with socially distanced seating for your enjoyment. Grab a cold beer and enjoy a bite from our freshly prepared and delicious menu. Street tacos, quesadillas, freshly cooked burgers and dogs, and veggie burgers too. State Fair tornado fries, nachos, and so much more, all prepared and cooked on site. So come visit the award-winning Three Nations Brewing Company on East Vandergrift off I-35 in Carrollton.
Cars priced right both day and night. Rent your car in Texas. Trucks built for you, red, white, and blue. Rent your car in Texas. Cars that zoom with lots of room. Rent your car in Texas. Count on us, a dealer to trust. Rent your car in Waco, Texas.
It's plain and simple. Waco Custom Marketplace is the one-stop shop for what you need for tailgating, from charcoal, cold beer, and wine. And, of course, customize your order with brisket, tri-tip, sausage, wings, smoked pork tenderloin, country-style or pork spare ribs, marinated beef and chicken fajita meat, ground beef and chili, meat, hot dogs, and burgers, buns, seasoning, sauces, chips. There's fresh baked bread and kolaches every day, breakfast sausage links. And you can also customize your favorite cut of steaks from select, choice, or prime, bacon wrap fillets, ribeyes, New York strips, sirloin, T-bone, and porterhouse. Full service butcher shop includes pork, poultry, beef, chicken, and seafood, serving Waco restaurants and families since 1940. Your one-stop shop for beef, pork, poultry, and seafood needs. Waco Custom Marketplace, 425 Lake Erie Drive, or WacoCustomMarketplace.com.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio. Are you a Sikkim 365 superfan? Then try out our premium subscriptions at Sikkim365.com.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio, 365 Sports. We'll jump into the chat. We haven't gone into that just yet. Just answer some of these random questions. I'm going to go backwards here, since that's easier for me. Chris says, Paul and Craig, I feel that the ACC plays a finesse style of basketball that mirrors the way the tournament games are played. This always seems to benefit ACC teams and hurts their more physical opponents. Yeah, I mean, look, when you have Duke and North Carolina that are the flagship teams of your league, the style of the play is always going to be more athletic. There's more NBA guys classically at those schools. So, yeah, I think you're right there.
Yeah, I mean, Texas Tech needs to muck it up, right? And, Baylor was kind of that way. They were trying to muck it up there in that last game for sure. That was their way to get back in it. But, yeah, I think there's something to that. I mean, that was the thing that stood out last night with Duke and Texas Tech was just the amount of talent that Duke has. I mean, exceptional. We're going to be watching them on a weekly, nightly basis in the NBA type of talent. And there will be some of those guys off that Tech roster that we'll be watching as well. But, clearly there's lottery picks, more than a couple over on that Duke roster. So, that probably does lend to some of that athleticism and more of a smooth style of game. Whereas, the Big 12 was more of elbows and knees and, mucking it up and getting dirty and playing physical. And, one of my concerns with Texas Tech in this tournament, it wasn't an issue so much last night, was, just if they got a quick whistle from somebody who didn't allow that physical style of play, then that could really screw them. Whereas with, a team like a Duke or North Carolina, I mean, they can get physical if they need to, but they don't have to worry, I don't think, so much. They don't rely on that. Does that make sense? As much? They can play freer, smoother, and not worry so much about the whistles of the refereeing. But yeah, I mean, I think you're right. I mean, look, Miami in the mix as well. So you got to give the ACC a lot of credit for being where they are and having the amount of representation that they still have, especially because of just how much criticism there was heading into the tournament for them. So well done, ACC.
Yeah. Okay. A lot of Cougs fans. Kick face and 1M, whose house, Cougs house. I mean, a lot of Houston fans.
Hey, go for it.
Yeah, go for it. Live it up, Kelvin Sampson. I'm sure like he's not a young guy, so he doesn't need to climb at this point in his career. I am surprised that, a couple years ago when it was evident that he was dominating at Houston, that one of the bigger conferences didn't come and get him back. But he was at Indiana. I mean, he'd been through all that before, Indiana and the NBA and all that. Now he's at a place that he's winning. Oklahoma, yeah. So he's
kind of what started the whole thing.
So he's at a place where he's winning and he's comfortable, and they're about to go back into the conference that kind of violently shoved him out for phone calls.
Yeah.
And like when people go back and Kelvin Sampson, like, oh, he was cheating in Oklahoma. Phone calls. That's what he's doing. The thing he was doing is totally legal now. Mm-hmm. And was one of those deals that was was when they broke down, like, why are so many people breaking this rule? They're like, because it's a stupid, unenforceable rule that somebody can break by, logging, like a call could get cut off and you could call them back and be like, oh, sorry, Craig, we got cut off. Just wanted to tell you about our political science program. I know you're interested in that. And then that's 2 calls and you call the next guy and you're behind the 8 ball. I mean, so.
Yeah, I don't remember how many calls he made. Like, I don't know what would fly just completely free now in terms, like, I'm not going to start keeping up with NCAA rules to the extent that I know, like, the number of phone calls allowed and all that. I'm sorry. I'm not going to care that much about that kind of minutia. But, at the time, he broke rules. I don't know how many of those were still broken if you took today's standards. But regardless, it happened years and years ago now at this point. So, yeah, going from Oklahoma to Indiana and then getting that show cause and having to, go off to the NBA and, ply your trade there while the show cause ran out, who knows what would have happened if he'd gone a different direction at that point. But once he got that opportunity and Houston came calling, it was a brilliant move on their part. Mack Rhodes obviously was a part of that, and it was a genius hire. It was an absolute genius hire, and there's no debating or denying that looking at where they are and what they've been doing. So, yeah, I mean, he was a guy who he's always been a good coach, and, for that to, in anybody's mind, to like somehow taint his accomplishments or his ability to lead a team, I think would have been ridiculous. And I'm sure not too many people thought that way. Maybe just tried to disparage his character a little bit. But again, like you said, you look around, it's like, who would you rather have, him or Will Wade? Yeah. Who are the bad guys here? Is Kelvin Sampson a bad guy? Did you just make a few extra text messages? So I don't think that was that big of a deal in the long run. But, for what a setback that was, I mean, he's bounced back tremendously. He served his punishment and got his opportunity. And again, it was a great hire, and it's worked out incredibly, incredibly well for Houston. And I'm excited that they're headed to the Big 12. I think, just so long as they can maintain this for the next couple years, if they can bring this type of momentum in with them at the time that they actually enter the Big 12, that would go a massive, massive way. And there's no reason to believe that they can't do that. But the one thing would be is if somebody came calling. And so to your point, I am a little surprised that, maybe somebody at this point, we haven't heard more of a blue blood type of a school. But look, Houston's got a hell of a history, man. So it's not like they're just some new booty on the block that, we're just seeing for the first time. I mean, they've got a great history. So he's in a good spot, great recruiting state, great location, big city, NIL, all that stuff. He's doing the damn thing.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, from Marshall Burns, running back by committee worries me a lot less than wide receiver by committee, but I've got a lot of faith in Coach Aranda and his staff. I see a great year ahead. I don't know. I'd rather have kind of a, I like what they had last year was a 1-2 punch. I like that with running backs as opposed to, and maybe you can be, like Nebraska in the 90s where it didn't matter who was back there, they're going to get 100 yards every game or more.
Yeah.
But I like having, especially in an offense that is going to have a workhorse. That's the thing about Abram Smith is he was a workhorse.
Yeah, he was. I mean, he was their main dude, and right now they don't have one, so that is a little bit of a concern. I don't worry too much about running back by committee, but, like, how big of a committee are we talking? Like, I mean, do you have 5 guys that are going to see snaps because they're all good and capable and should be seeing snaps, or are you going to see 5 guys because not a single one of them can handle the load himself? Like, that's what my big concern and question is right now. Josh Fleeks is a very interesting move to running back. He's super athletic. Grayson did mention the little bit of a lack of a size. I mean, there's not much confidence in my brain that we're going to see Josh Fleeks being able to slam into defenders the way that Abram Smith was. I just don't know physically how he would be able to continue doing that, throughout the season. So that's a question. And yeah, I mean, the good news is, like, they're 3 spring practices in basically. I mean, they're fifth of the way through, so there's a lot of time to figure it out. And look, they didn't even have their starting running back until like a week was remaining in spring practices last year when they moved Abram over from linebacker. And maybe there's somebody on the roster that we're not thinking of that could see a position switch. That I don't lean so much on. I have to think that the guy's already there in that backfield, or we're going to be talking about the transfer portal and them possibly going and looking through that post-spring or late spring to try and find that right guy to not replace anybody that they have, but to at least complement a Fleeks or a Jenkins or whoever else you're going to throw into that mix because they're going to have more than one. I mean, they had more than Abram. They had Ebner last year, like you said. So I mean, they got to find a guy and then another guy, and it's just a matter of how many guys will it take to find that. And whether or not that's on campus right now or that's something that they're going to have to go and look for elsewhere.
All right, Armstrong, I would like you to comment on this comment on the chat room. Please, this is from Aaron Anderson. He says, J.J. Redick is my favorite college player of all time. Again, I repeat, from Aaron Anderson, who Armstrong will find where you live.
Yep.
J.J. Redick is my favorite college player of all time.
Mine's Grayson Allen.
Yes. But not just on the court, off the court.
Even more so.
Yeah. I don't.
Do you have anything to say about someone who likes as J.J. Redick as their favorite player of all time?
Only that I'm currently opening up the chat room to find your account.
Track you down.
Dox you.
Yeah.
I don't really have a comment. Just
where is JJ?
What was his name?
His name's Aaron Anderson.
Aaron Anderson.
Yeah. And Armstrong, are you? Where are you on Paul's Tim Tebow scale of Duke players like JJ? Like where does JJ Redick, Grayson Allen? Where do they live on Paul's Tim Tebow scale of not acceptable to like for any reason?
Yeah. JJ Redick's pretty high up there as far as unacceptable goes. But Grayson Allen, I think, takes the cake. And even for me, over in Christian Laettner, because Christian Laettner is just before my time.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with JJ. I mean, I don't have a problem with other guys really either. I'm not a Duke hater like Armstrong is, but I like JJ Redick. I think he does a really great job in terms of his analysis. His podcast is good. He's had Luke on recently. That was pretty enlightening. So I can see, though, why he would be he's one of those guys on your team, you love him, not on your team, you despise him. And Duke certainly had their fair share of those guys over the years. You could make an all-star team from the despise guys, I mean, rather easily, yeah. I would think.
Oh, yeah. And look, as a graduate of an ACC school, I don't care for Duke. I don't want them to win, but I actually enjoy watching JJ Redick play because he was such an assassin, and he's fun. I mean, look, I like watching, and I'm old enough to know that I'm one of my favorite things ever was the Laettner play. I love that. I loved it. I mean, because it was just amazing to watch. And at that point in my life, at 12 years old, I had no dog in the hunt. So. But
that's still, I mean, you got to realize how big of a deal Christian Laettner was. You weren't alive in 1992. That's true. So, I mean, for him to be on the dream team and not these bogus fake dream teams that they've been flaunting the last, whenever they've used that term in the 2000s and even the late 90s, that the real dream team.
There's one dream team.
There's only one dream team. It was the 92 Olympics dream team. There will never be another roster like that. But it was basketball god after basketball god after basketball god, and then Christian Laettner was on the roster, and that was just weird. It was just like, I remember I had a T-shirt that was like a caricature shirt, whereas like the cartoon drawings of the whole team. And I used to stare. I thought it was the coolest shirt, but yeah, it was always weird to look at it. And it's like there's Jordan and there's Magic and like every guy you can Bird and like every stud, and then there's Christian Laettner. But like I know at the time he was a stud at Duke and he was the most talked about college basketball player in the world at that time. But it was still just kind of weird.
Well, and I think they added a college player because they wanted to add a college player, and he was the best one.
Yeah.
And he wasn't. I'm sure Christian Laettner didn't show up on the dream team thinking like, man, I'm going to get 20 minutes a night. I mean, no, it wasn't going to happen that way. And he did actually probably play a little bit more because half the games they had were just such exhaustive blowouts. But that and the dream team is actually one of my favorite things about it is one of the best things we do as Americans is spite people, and that was done completely out of spite. 100%.
Yeah, it was the first. They said you want to jab at us and all that. Well, if we really want to go out here and win this dadgum thing, we will do it, and we'll do it easily. We'll actually play our best players. And so in 1992, they put the Dream Team together, and they allowed NBA players to come in there, and they absolutely ran roughshod over the entire world and did it emphatically, and it was awesome. And there will never be another team like that.
Nope, it's one of my favorite things. I had a poster of the Dream Team on my wall for 10 years. Mm-hmm. Honestly, from 92, until I was took it to college with me. I loved the Dream Team. I loved it. And
Leitner too. He's very lucky that he played when he played, and I mean, he would have certainly been on the receiving end of some social media stuff if he was playing these days. That's for dang sure.
Yeah. Now he owns a bunch of Bojangles chicken places, and he's in Corona commercials with Snoop Dogg.
Right on.
Yeah.
Right on.
He's living right. When we come back, Baylor quarterback coach Sean Bell met with the media yesterday. We'll have that in our comments on it right after this. Sikkim 365 Radio, 365 Sports.
Ram Truck Month is here, and it's all about the championship drive as our hometown teams march towards another exciting championship drive. And so can you in your new vehicle from Allen Samuels Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram in Waco. Shop for power, performance, and reliability with the brands that bring you what you want to drive. Come in today and see our selection of new 2022 trucks, SUVs, and cars. It's time to take home the trophy from Allen Samuels in Waco. Shop the huge inventory of new car and truck inventory in stock today.
Come by. Let's be friends.
See dealer for details. All offers have credit requirements.
It takes time to reach goals. It's a truth that applies to more than sports. It goes for your financial goals as well. You work hard for your money, and you deserve an investment strategy that lines up with your game plan. And Tom Albers, your Edward Jones financial advisor, can help. If your financial investments aren't putting forth the effort you desire, stop by today for a financial review. Tom Albers, 4301 Lakeshore Drive, 254-776-7605. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
You want to know why Stonewood Dental is so successful? Listen to what happy customers have to say.
It's pleasant. It's different than any other dentist office. I really feel like they care. And it's not that you're here for 2 hours waiting on someone to take care of you. It's quick and easy, and I bring my kids, and my kids love being here too. They really love the treasure box. Staff is really nice and accommodating, real friendly. You feel more like home. It's not sterile looking. Everybody has their own personalized rooms with decorations and decor, and they'll even have a blanket for you when it's cold. I've recommended people to actually come here, and they are patients now. I really love it here. It feels like family.
Learn more, stonewood-dental.com. Riverbend Liquor and Wine, Lakeshore Drive at North 19th Street in Waco is a hidden gem. They've got a great selection of spirits, wine, and the most extensive selection of craft beer in Waco in their gorgeous walk-in fridge. And they have an amazing array of high-end bourbons like Pinhook, Weller, Buffalo Trace, Brush Creek, Hotel, Garrison Brothers, Thomas S. Moore, Hooten Young, and Bardstown. Great customer service and a convenient and speedy drive-through window. Riverbend Liquor and Wine. Find out more on Facebook and Instagram. Stepping into a new pair of boots is great, but stepping into the boots of a U.S. Army officer can also add confidence and leadership skills to your son or daughter's career path. There are more than 150 occupational specialties to help them find the best fit for their future. See all the things your son or daughter can achieve in our boots at GoArmy.com. U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company, 254-598-8131 or 254-776-1543.
With so many companies and policies out there, it gets so confusing shopping for insurance, and I never know if I'm getting the policy that's right for me. Luckily, I met the team at the Nitchie Group Insurance Agency. With the Nitchie Group, you can go to one company and get access to coverage options from many insurance carriers, and you get to speak to a real person about your specific coverage needs. With the Nitchie Group, I know I'm getting the right coverage at the right price. If you need insurance, talk to the experts at the Nitchie Group at 1-800-258-8302.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio.
High formation. They give it to the fullback. You called it. Touchdown Bears.
The 5 o'clock hour is sponsored by Edward Jones Investments with financial advisor Tom Albers, staying in touch with you and your money through these difficult and changing times. Edward Jones, making sense of investing.
Now, here's Paul Catalina and Craig Smoak.
Welcome back in. Sick'em 365 Radio 365 Sports. Smokey is taking the day off today, so Paul and Craig taking you through the last part of the show here. We'll have Sean Bell in just a second. My top five at the end of the hour. And Armstrong, I think after this we're going to replay Gene Taylor because there was some thought we were going to get Jerome Tang today. That's not going to be today. It's probably going to be on Monday, but for those people who wanted, who may have missed Gene Taylor that we had on yesterday, the Kansas State AD, we'll replay that in the next segment.
Yeah, he was really good, and I just am going to remember for a while how this expansion thing plays out, but it wasn't but a couple months ago some other dude who does radio wanted to take a cheap shot at us for the expansion talk, and then tried to hijack that and twist it as it was his own, and then saw a lot of people who took digs, talking about, just making up stuff, and just listen to Gene Taylor, listen to Mac Rhodes, listen to all that's going on. Expansion is not dead. Expansion is just slowed, and it's not a necessary thing that the Big 12 is going to expand again, but listen to Gene Taylor, listen to Mac Rhodes. It is not off the table, just like we were saying the entire time. So definitely got receipts from one guy in particular that I'm going to be holding on to. But Gene Taylor, to the point, was fantastic. And, K-State's got great leadership, and they are fired the blank up about Jerome Tang. Like, they are super fired up, and rightfully so. He's going to do a great job there. I hate that he's still in the Big 12, but I also love it because I think – obviously, he's going to make K-State way better and do so pretty quickly. And I would imagine he's going to attack that transfer portal. I know Nigel Pack entered the draft, but he can always get out, too. Yeah. He's just getting his draft grade. So that'll be very interesting to watch what he ends up doing because I think he'd be incredible with Jerome Tang for a year. But Gene Taylor was really good. So I'm up for that. And I'm kind of glad that with Smokey not being here, that we don't get Jerome because I think, he'll obviously have some questions as well. So that'll be good, hopefully, on Monday.
Yeah, so, but we'll talk to him. By the way, on LJ Cryer, he sent out that tweet earlier, and underneath it says Baylor men's basketball. I know there's some scuttlebutt that LJ Cryer might transfer. Well, Scott Drew retweeted him and said, "Can't wait to have you back." So
prayers for a speedy recovery. #joy.
Yeah, so that ultimately doesn't mean anything official, but it leans in the right direction.
I just thought it was strange to begin with, and most of that I don't follow every post all that closely, but I know that some of that scuttlebutt was coming out of just Baylor fan circles and the website as well. I don't know what all there was to that or driving that, or even how big that really even got. I know there were definitely a couple people that were like, "Huh, what is this about LJ Cryer?" And what do you mean he may not be? That it kind of got out there a little bit, but I just found it kind of bizarre because why? Why? They did so much to help him throughout this entire year, and he could give it a go every once in a while, but not really 100%. They've had plenty of history with dealing with guys with injuries and bringing them back. There's a credible medical staff and coaching staff, so I'm just thrilled to see that. To me, I just didn't understand the whole transfer rumor to begin with. I just didn't see what benefit that would really have. So I'm glad to see that there's a little bit more confirmation that, not only is he going to be getting healthy, which is really the main priority, but, once he does, he's going to be able to do his thing for Baylor basketball again.
Yeah. All right. Yesterday, Sean Bell, Baylor quarterback's coach, met with the media to talk about his position and the competition that they will have between the incumbent Gary Bohannon and Blake Shapen. Here is Sean Bell from yesterday's practice.
Question for him?
Sean, is this a little different from last year? You've got some veterans, guys with some experience.
Yeah, I think that, this time last year there was a lot of unknown. We got a lot of quarterbacks. Do we have any quarterbacks? What are they going to look like? And, I think we're in a good position in my room, and it's a testament to those guys, their hard work, and I feel like the depth in that room is something that we can keep winning football games and feel good about those guys, how hard they work and who they are.
What's it like having your brother alongside you? It's got to be pretty cool.
Yeah, it's exciting for him, and I think it's really exciting for us. I know what he brings to the table as far as a person, as a coach, as far as, helping us, X and O wise, but also what he's going to bring to the table with the relationship with the players. And he's on the defensive side, so we don't really cross paths that much, but I'm excited for him, but really a great opportunity for us, and he's helping us get better.
Sean, from where they came from. I mean, the way that those guys performed, I mean, how proud of them were you just in terms of what they were able to get done last year as pretty much unproven guys?
Yeah, I think I was proud of the success that they had and the success that the team had. I was probably more proud of how they handled themselves, to have Blake sitting in the waist, sitting with his waiting on his opportunity and being ready when his name was called. Gary, when he gets hurt and he's not sulking, he's supporting Blake. And it's probably one of the neatest things I've seen in my time of coaching, of two guys that were selfless and gave everything to the team, and didn't matter who was back there under center, they were supporting each other, and really neat to be a part of, and definitely proud of their hard work and the success that they had.
Do you feel like that's kind of spilled over to this spring? I know there's still kind of a competition there, but what does that kind of look like this year?
Yeah, I think we're competing everywhere. That's the name of the game. Is every position, every year, we're going to put the best 11 on the field on offense and defense. And I think Gary understands that, Blake understands that, Kyron and CJ understand that. And so that's the nature of the beast. Is football's about competing every single day. Those guys welcome that, they encourage that, and I think they want that. I don't think they want anything handed to them. They know that competition is going to breed success, and they're going to keep building from that competition. Gary makes Blake better, Blake makes Gary better, Kyron makes all of them better, and so does CJ.
Sean, is Blake, is he all the way back from a shoulder injury? Is he looking good?
Yeah. So Blake's 100% back. It was kind of a quiet time knowing what happened in bowl season. But yeah, he's 100% back. Was full go in the off season, and no restrictions at all.
What does Gary have to do? Coach talked about it the other day. He just needs to keep improving. Are there specific things he needs to do to get better?
Yeah, I think that's what we talk about every single day, is what we're trying to get better that day. And I think Gary's focus right now is probably being better, he'll tell you, progressionally. So what that means is being able to work through reads and being balanced in his lower half and being consistent when the first read's not there. So that's something we're working on. And, I think that he's always continued to be a better leader. And I think that's who Gary is. He wants to be better in all aspects. But that'd probably be the one thing that our focal point is this spring. And, I think each one of them, we talked about what they have to do to get better, and that's probably his biggest point of emphasis right now.
What could Blake do to get better?
I think Blake, as far as a passer, has a lot of natural ability. I think he knows just as far as consistency. And one of the big things I think Blake's improved on and worked on is his leadership. And he went through a 8-week leadership training with a lot of other guys, and I think he's learning and growing. And it's hard being a young guy that's kind of thrust into that role. And he's really kind of focused on that. That's one of his goals, is to continue to improve as a leader. And so it's not as much physical all the time, especially at the quarterback position. It's just as much mental as anything else. And so I think leadership's probably his point of emphasis. And when I say, even Gary and Blake, both of them, these are things that they say they need to work on, and I see the same thing.
Besides leadership, are there some other intangibles that you'd like to see from all of your quarterbacks in that quarterback room?
Yeah, I think that as we take the next step as a football team, there were times last year offense may have played better, and later in the year I felt like our defense was really playing good football and carrying us. You look at the Sugar Bowl, I think we as an offense know that we've got to take that next step. We lost some guys on defense, and the quarterback room specifically, our goal is to be way more consistent, to be way more involved. You lose a couple playmakers, and so our game has to step up. And so, we've got to be better in that room, and we understand that and embrace that challenge.
How big is it to have all those O-linemen? And they hardly gave up a sack last year.
Yeah, I think that's huge. For Connor Galvin and Khalil Keith and guys that have been here a long time, and along with Jacob and Grant and some of the young guys, there's a lot of talent in that room. I think that, Coach Mateos and Coach Grimes do a tremendous job developing those guys, and to have all of them back and a chance to keep building, it all starts there. And, you look at our offense and who we want to be and how we want to look, those guys give us that opportunity to be who we want to be.
I guess your guys in particular are excited about having all those people back.
I think so. Yeah, I think that they definitely see the work, and I think that's the benefit of veteran O-line, right? It's kind of takes time to develop that, but to have veterans on the O-line, that's where you win football games. And I think just as much as what we have on the D-line, that's what's exciting. The two lines should be one of the strengths of our football team, and we're excited about that.
Anything else?
Appreciate you guys. Thank y'all. Yep.
So there you go, Sean Bell, Baylor quarterbacks coach, talking about the competition. A word that came up a lot, Craig, was leadership. And you wrote about that today on the site, I know, and then that'll come out here shortly. But he mentioned the 8-week leadership course, which is something that, Faith, correct me if I'm wrong, like everybody kind of has access to that, right? Yeah, so a lot of athletes, volleyball, tennis, whatever you are, can take that leadership course. Blake Shapen was in that and learning about leadership.
Is it like an online thing or? Okay.
Okay, Baylor built.
Yeah, sorry, we didn't have a. But it's an 8-week course, and it's a Baylor built, part of Baylor built, and yeah, I was curious about that when I heard that. I thought it was very interesting, though. That's a smart idea, and especially when you hear Blake Shapen talk about he's a leader. He believes he's a leader, but it doesn't come across maybe the same way that Gary Bohannon being a leader does, because he does it in a different way. And so Gary, he gets asked if he's a leader, and he's like, "Yeah, I'm a leader. It's something he's still working on, but he." Very matter-of-factly is, I'm a leader, and you hear that all the time, and it's pretty obvious. And then with Blake Shapen, it's a little less obvious. But you ask Blake Shapen, and he's like, I'm a leader. But then you could tell he's been taking that course, because the way he went and explained, why that maybe doesn't come across the same way is because, he just goes about it differently. So that's something that they've tried to, kind of open up that the fact that he's not a big talker, and he's more of a do it by example, but that doesn't always translate to inspiring maybe your teammates, or maybe there are some times where you do need to get a bit more vocal. And so I think that's part of what he's learned. I think that'll be very important, and I think that is a gap with him and Gary Bohannon. And I think if you go and line those guys up on the team, I don't think that a bunch of them wouldn't say that Blake's a leader, but I think almost all of them would say that Gary is.
Yeah.
And, and I wouldn't doubt that if it was unanimous. So he has an edge there. He has an edge in size. He has an edge in arm strength. He has an edge in experience. He has an edge in a lot of areas. But, I'm still going to give Blake Shapen a fair shake, because I know Dave Aranda is, and that's one thing he really hammered home. He kept saying the word opportunity. He said the word opportunity 3 different times in regards to Blake Shapen, talking about how important it was that Aranda himself learned from his own mistakes in the past. And one of the things he reflected on this offseason was that how important it is for guys to feel like they actually have an opportunity. Now that you're saying there's a quarterback competition, but we all know that Gary is really the guy. But no, there's a quarterback competition, and legitimately anybody can win it, including you, Blake Shapen. Mm-hmm. And so it's important for him to hammer that home and to know that. And so I think Blake does know that, and that's why that word opportunity was thrown out so much, from him, but also from Aranda. They're really driving home. It's an opportunity. It's an opportunity. But like he also said, it's Gary's job to basically lose, and it's Blake's job to basically win. Gary can't just rest on his laurels and not lose the job that way. He's got to continue to getting better as well. But there is more work to do for Blake Shapen, certainly, and it does feel like he's having to unseat a guy rather than there just being an empty chair.
Well, and I think that's probably the best way. I mean, that's the best way to go about it, because you could point to the way that either one of them threw the ball at the end of the year last year and irresponsibly be like, all right, flip it.
Yeah, no,
Blake,
absolutely.
Blake, we're flipping it. We're doing this. So
I said this a couple times now. I'm not afraid to say it again. I'm never afraid to say when I'm wrong. I got a little bit too much into the green and gold Kool-Aid as far as Blake Shapen, and I started acting like a bunch of people did when Jacob Zeno threw a couple of passes a couple years ago, and acting like that meant he should be the starting quarterback. I don't think I ever came out and just said, Blake Shapen should be the starting quarterback. But, I definitely started leaning in that direction based off of 2.5 games worth of action. It wasn't even 2.5, I don't think, but a little less than 3 games worth of total action on the year. But look, what we did see was really good. I mean, that first half against Oklahoma State prior to the injury, he was sensational, but he does have some injury concerns now. I mean, he's not as big of a guy as Gary is, and, they love to run the quarterback, so Gary's a little bit more well-suited most likely for that and just the durability factor. But there's a lot to like about both guys. There's things both need to work on, and I think for Shapen, if he can step up that leadership aspect, in addition to, becoming more consistent, that was another thing that Sean Bell said, then he's going to be right in the mix and make it fun. And I know Aranda thought that they could potentially name somebody, and I think that was more lip service. I don't really think they're banking on naming anybody right after spring ball. But if they don't, that won't come as a surprise. But I do think that would be a good sign if this competition were to linger, into the summer months like it did last year.
Yeah, I would think that if it lingers, although I personally don't like the tact of having to name the quarterback a week before your first game, but I do like it 2 weeks. That first.
Yeah, no, there needs to be some heads up. There needs to be some heads up, but I don't think it's necessary for Gary to be QB1 in May.
No.
For this team to be able to do what they need to do. I think the competition, and look, they're really good friends, so nobody can make it about there being any sort of a real rivalry, so to speak. It's just a competition, and they both seem to be embracing it. But I got to mention this. This is even bigger news. Outback has dropped their sponsorship of the Tampa Bay Bowl. What is going on in this world? But
just the Tampa Bay Bowl.
Yeah, it's just the Tampa Bay Bowl now. But Terrence Shannon has entered the transfer portal.
A day after.
Terrence Shannon, Jr., Texas Tech, has entered the transfer portal per multiple reports. Austin Massey saying, can't say it's a huge surprise, but the fact he entered the portal less than 24 hours after Tech's loss to Duke says a lot. So that was from Austin Massey over at the 247 and the Texas Tech site over there. But, whoa, that's kind of, I mean, he says not much of a surprise, so maybe not for some people. That's still a surprise to see the day after they lost to Duke like that. That's kind of surprising.
Well, and he missed a chunk of Baylor, they beat Baylor without him in the first game, and which ultimately was the closer of the two, the one that was here in Waco. But, that's surprising me that the day after the Duke game, he's already in the portal.
And there's already rumors about where he's going. Like, I typed it up. Kentucky and Illinois the favorites. So this has been on the radar, and I suppose all being, set up pretty quickly because, we've already got favorites and who he might visit, and he just entered 10 minutes ago, if not even that. So, that's from a while ago. Sorry, I didn't even notice that from earlier. That was from a while ago. We just haven't mentioned it. So I thought that was brand new. So that makes more sense that there's actually favorites and all that. Okay, that makes me feel better because I was like, man, if he just announced that and then 5 seconds later they're already naming favorites, that would be kind of weird. So my apologies. I missed that and just now saw somebody retweet it back into my timeline. But that's news to me and definitely interesting news. That's for sure.
You know what's better about the transfer portal than is about free agency is that, free agency in the pros, if you lose whatever sport it is, you lose a guy, you wonder how you're going to replace him. The transfer portal, I really don't worry about that as much. Sometimes, look, if you're West Virginia, you lose Oscar Shibwe, that sucks. Like, there's not another him. But a lot of times, and no knock on Terrence Shannon Jr., but there's other hymns that Texas Tech can get, and they had one game without them. That
whole team they put together. it wasn't all transfers, but a large portion of it was.
Yeah.
And Mark Adams did it in a relatively short amount of time too. That was the big concern. Is you look at any roster, and there's pretty much everyone you look at's got some form of transfers on it, and some of them, like a Baylor or like a Texas Tech, may have more than a few. But Mark Adams has settled in now, and I think he'll be just fine. He'll find a worthy replacement, and this is why you can't ever leave Twitter, right? Because I just been not on it much today and missed out on that few hours ago, I guess. That's very interesting news for sure. But I don't worry for Texas Tech too much about that. It will be very interesting though to see where he lands, especially if it's a Kentucky as apparently is being rumored, or even an Illinois that's being thrown out there as well.
He'll make whatever team he goes to better. He's a really good player.
Yeah.
So and he was really, if you want to talk about a guy who could score. They had two. They had Shannon, they had O'Banner, the guys who could kind of score in bunches. The rest of Texas Tech was not, prolific offensive
saw that last
guys.
night.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, we saw that last night where there was some prolific offensive guys on one team and there wasn't so much on the other team, and that's what ended up mattering a whole heck of a lot there at the end. And also some coaching from Coach K, as far as the zone and what they were going in and out of. But just hitting big buckets there at the end, and Tech, when they would come down the court, a little bit more of a struggle to trying to find a bucket, and that ended up, and that was a concern, all year and going in, that was something that they had dealt with at times, and it cost them a bit last night. But that's a really good Duke team. That's a potentially national champion Duke team. We'll have to wait and see. But I was looking at Tech's roster last night, and like half of it is transfers he brought in. Of those, there's I think 3 or 4 super seniors. And then, maybe 1 or 2 guys that could potentially come back. That's off the top of my head. But, they'll probably do it again. They'll probably do something, they'll recruit high school guys, but I'm sure they'll hit the portal again. And so will Baylor and a lot of other teams, and they'll find the right guy to replace. But I was curious to kind of see, like, what does shake out with that roster and how much Mark Adams is having to replace. But, obviously Terrence Shannon will be one of those. And then we'll see as far as NBA decisions and things like that here over the next few days and weeks.
Well, look, why would you not want to go to Tech if it was available to you now?
Sure, especially when you, got, some of the star names we're, looking at last night. You're looking at UTEP. You're looking at, schools like that they went, and sure, if you're at UTEP and Texas Tech comes calling, absolutely you're going to sign up for that and want to go try and make a run at a championship. So no, they'll have plenty of callers with their atmosphere and their culture right now.
All right, we'll take a break right here. When we come back, we'll replay Gene Taylor, Kansas State AD, our interview with him yesterday. Very interesting, very insightful interview. And of course, it's It focuses a lot on former Baylor assistant Jerome Tang, now the head coach at K-State, and some of the things he thinks about playoff expansion of the Big 12, and all those things that still on the table. Gene Taylor, Kansas State Athletic Director, right after this. Sikkim 365 Radio, 365 Sports.
Baylor University is where lights shine bright. So, let there be light. Let there be roommates and teammates, scholarship and championships. Let there be fresh starts and new traditions, fast friendships and lasting impacts. Let there be laughter. Let there be joy. Let there be light. Baylor University, where lights shine bright.
Brad Boozer, Boozer's Jeweler, joins us on Sikkim 365 Radio. I've seen people walk in there. First of all, you have so much to show. Necklaces, bracelets, rings. You have the watches. You have numerous great watches as well. You really have pretty much everything, don't you, when it comes to jewelry?
That's correct. Kind of a one-stop shop and all. And the fact that we have the 2 jewelers on staff, the repairs we can do, the fixing of your jewelry, and the remaking of any jewelry has really set us apart from anybody else.
You want to know why they're successful? Brad Boozer, the owner of Boozer's Jewelers on the corner of Valley Mills and Lake Air in Waco.
Texas Farm Bureau Insurance has protected fellow Texans with auto, home, health, and life insurance since 1952. With more than 260,000 square miles of land and 27 million people, that's a lot to cover. Whether you're wrangling cattle or wrangling kids, we're proud to protect Texans in all Texan ways of life.
Stop by and see our agents at one of our 3 McLennan County locations.
Coverage and discounts are subject to qualifications and policy terms and may vary by situation.
Did you know that 1 out of every 4 men have symptomatic low levels of testosterone and don't even know it? And if you think you're too young to worry about it, guess again. Low T levels can make you feel tired and grumpy, cause weight gain, and wreak havoc on your sexual desire and performance. Petty Clinic Low T can set up same-day blood screening and results, so if you're tired of being tired, I challenge you to man up and Google search Low T Waco or go online pettycliniclowt.com. It's a private clinic with an atmosphere catering to men. Affordable, only $150 a month, includes lab work, office consultation, testosterone injections, follow-up visits compared to $395 a month in Dallas or Austin, and you don't have to fight the traffic. Petty Clinic Low T as board-certified physician consultations will provide the best form of brand-strength testosterone available. Contact Petty Clinic Low T today, just off Highway 84 and Old Hewitt Drive in Woodway. Petty Clinic Low T, helping men become the high-performance men they deserve to be. PettyClinicLowT.com or Google search Low T Waco.
How did Edward Jones become one of the biggest financial service companies in the world? By not acting that way. Financial strategies, one-on-one advice, it's a big difference. And that's why Brad Wilson, your Edward Jones financial advisor, makes sense of investing. Experience the difference for yourself. Brad Wilson, 250 Sharon Drive in Woodway, 254-776-4337. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
There are 26 letters in the alphabet, over 600,000 words in the dictionary, and just 3 of them said together can change everything. Let's order pizza. Those 3 words lead to dough made from scratch and 3 fresh signature cheeses that blanket golden crust in a heavenly melt on Marco's Pizza that'll blow your mind. So visit marcos.com to order and stop by Marco's Pizza in Belmead, China Spring, Woodway, and soon to open in Robinson. Marco's. Pizza lovers get it.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio.
Have you downloaded the Sikkim 365 Radio app? Do it today on the App Store and Google Play.
Week in Manhattan, Kansas. I guess the best thing, if you're not in the tournament, is having someone like Jerome Tang become your men's basketball coach. And it's been a whirlwind. And then today he was introduced to the great fans in Manhattan. And the AD, Gene Taylor, Kansas State, we appreciate his time, joins us, Sikkim 365 Radio and 365 Sports. Gene, did you knew this would be popular. You mentioned that. Everyone here knew that as well. Has it even been more popular than you could have ever imagined, the introduction of Jerome Tang?
Absolutely. Thanks for having me on. First of all, fellas, great to be on. A lot of people, the staff that had a chance to meet him before we introduced him, just kept saying what a great job he did and how it was better than they anticipated, even knowing who he was when they met him. Just really wowed everybody from media to fans to donors to you name it. He really knocked it out of the park today.
What was the interview process like with him? I mean, we know him well. I can probably imagine and guess it pretty well, but curious to how Jerome Tang is in a job interview.
Well, he's obviously very passionate and very energetic. We met him for about an hour when in Kansas City, and he walked in, and just his presence was strong. His confidence was there. He sat down. He really felt comfortable talking to him. Easy guy to kind of get to like. And he walked out of the room, and I said, "All right, guys, that's the bar. If anybody can get above it, then we know we have our." And nobody really did. And we had some really good candidates. But really, what nailed it is at his home on Sunday. Just his knowledge of basketball, just what he believes in, how he wants to run a program. Again, his personality came through again even more because we were there longer in a comfortable setting for him. He had video up, and he's up there Xing and Oing. And I was probably 30 minutes into the conversation, the 3-hour conversation. I had kind of made up my mind at that point, but he was good. He was even today, same deal. His passion, his energy, his love for K-State. Obviously, his love for Baylor is very, very strong. But how much he enjoyed, being introduced today as the next basketball coach at K-State was very real.
This is obviously a very big decision, one that you couldn't take very lightly, and one that you needed to feel like you got right. And Bruce Weber did some great things, but he decided to move on, and you guys are moving on. And just what was kind of your thought process as that change was occurring in terms of what you were looking for out of your next head coach, and what kind of your desires and your vision of the program was, and how did Jerome Tang fit that?
Well, you said it. Bruce is a quality person, quality coach. Obviously, a lot of the characteristics that he had, how he ran a program, his ethics, how he treated student athletes. A lot of the things that we wanted in a coach started there. And then Jerome certainly met that from everything that I had done from the research and what I've heard about him. But just his energy to take us to the next step, right? What is the next step? Sustained success and programs that, play a basketball style a certain way that's energetic for our fans, defensively, offensively, and it just everything that I've said this to a few people. His fingerprints are all over, in my opinion, that Baylor program. Now, certainly Scott Drew is a leader and has done a heck of a job, and the other assistants, but building that together like they did from where it was to where it is today, you learn a lot. And to me, that's what we needed. Not that we're a broken program, because we're not. I think we got a lot of good things in place, but we needed to just kind of take it to the next level, and I think he's absolutely the guy to get us there.
Yeah, I love how he said elevate, not rebuild, but elevate.
Yeah.
Are there a lot of similarities, in your opinion, to Kansas State and Baylor as far as the town, the city, and just the departments?
I think so. I mean, I feel pretty familiar. Mac's a friend of mine, and just watching how he runs the program, and I've had some friends that have worked in the department. It feels that way. People really care about Baylor, and they care about the colors and the green and white. They have a great pride in that program, and that's very similar here to the K-State fans of how much pride they have, and it feels that way. When you go in their arena, they're all, and that they're fans that love Baylor, and I think we have the same thing here at K-State.
You have a football coach in Chris Kleiman who is a very passionate players coach. Jerome Tang the same way. Obviously, leadership and you and the president and everybody that's going to be there, wants the same kind of thing. But how important is to have, not similarity, but synergy between athletic programs and coaches who all kind of approach things in that kind of way?
Well, in my opinion, it's critically important. The coaches support each other, right? And that's certainly what we've had. Chris, I took Coach Tang up just a little while ago to the football offices. Coach Kleiman wanted him to come up. He introduced him to all the staff. There was a lot of conversation. And, he did say this in his interview. He's a big football guy. Apparently, he spent a lot of time on the Baylor football practice field. And, Coach Rule and Chris are good buddies, and they talked about it. So, and that's good, and that's what we need. Our baseball coach supports football, and our women's basketball coach supports men's basketball, and that's what makes all programs successful if we're all in it together, kind of promoting the same thing and the same, qualities and the same belief. And then he's going to add to that in a big way, no question.
Now that you mentioned it, I seem to recall, what was the spring game last year where he and Scott Drew were opposing play callers? Yeah.
He told that story today. He said he knew Scott was going to go deep, so he blitzed, and he felt he won the play call, and that's what he said. So.
Well, for you guys, you got to hope he still is able to predict that way when they meet up. That'll come in handy for sure. You have been in the Big 12 now for, around 5 years. How would you summarize those 5 years being in the Big 12?
It's been great. Obviously, it got a little crazy there about a year ago.
It did?
Our friends. Yeah. We got a couple of new ones now. The presidents, really care about this league. I think it's one of the best leagues in the country, and in some of our, top sports and across the board, in my opinion. But I've just been really pleased in how well we work together, and even through last year, as tumultuous as it was, we came together, the 8 remaining institutions, and found a way to work through it. Bob did a great job leading us through it. We've got, in my opinion, 4 really good schools coming in. So even though it's been kind of up and down, I think there's a bright future ahead for all of us in what we have going forward as we move, the next few years, the craziness of name, image, and likeness and television contracts and all that stuff. I think we're in a pretty good spot.
Yeah, it's to me, I'm not going to say it was a miracle, because at late July when that story popped, I'm sure there's a lot of people that had some restless nights, even fan bases, much less if you're the director of athletics, and we have Mac on almost every week, and I remember that time. Were you surprised that you were able to, the entire conference, those remaining, and Bob Bowlesby, turn it around as quickly as you did to get those 4 into the future, at least starting in 2023 and beyond?
I was initially, honestly, like you said, there were some sleepless nights, and as there was the conversations about who's going to go to another conference, we were one of the schools that kind of weren't mentioned, and it makes you, wait a minute here. We were worried, but the more we talked to Bob, he had a plan. He obviously had been, obviously he was unaware like everybody else, but I think he went to work right away and got on the phone. And I'll be honest with you, the minute that broke, 2 of the ADs in that league were already calling me. So I kind of knew we might have a chance, and Bob did a great job. And the more I listened to our conversations, I felt pretty confident we were going to be able to pull in some really good schools, and we did. And hats off to him and the ADs for sticking together. That was my biggest thing. Guys, we have to stick together. We can't be panicking. We're better together as 8. And let's see who we can bring in, and it worked out very well.
Even though some enrollments are larger than others, Iowa State, Kansas State, Baylor, TCU, there's a lot of common there. Some 2 private schools, yes, but to me, it seemed like that was the only way. Even Texas Tech, a larger campus, Oklahoma State, West Virginia, but it seemed like all of you had to look at the same way, like, hey, we need everybody to be one here. No one can go pop off to another conference, and that thing would just die.
And that was what we talked about, is that if somebody got nervous and thought, well, I can go into this conference or that conference, we were going to fall apart. And we knew we were too good of a conference to do that. And we began to believe that after talking to each other and staying on the Zoom call back then and letting us work through the system. And we all kind of said, hey, I'm getting calls from so-and-so. It wasn't like, we weren't going to find schools. And I think we realized we're better together. We were able to do that. And then bring in what I think is probably the cream of the crop of the schools that were out there that we're looking to get into the Power 5. And I think they're ready. You look how the success they're having this year.
We talked about it a lot, and it's the Big 12 is a conference that's trying to grow and grow new things and not just rehash old brands.
Absolutely. And that's what I like, and we're actually having some conversations about rebranding, which clearly you can't deny that the Texas brand and the OU brand are big, but I think the brand of the Big 12 and the success that we've had, we're going to continue with that. I mean, we've had, almost every year we've had somebody in the Final Four in college football, and look what we've done in basketball the last few years, and in women's basketball, and you guys have won both the men and women's basketball championship, and baseball is one of the best conferences in the country. So we just know we're really good. And I think that brand can continue to get better with the 4 new schools, in my opinion, without question.
During one random search I was doing on YouTube one day, I came across your Ask the AD segment that you guys put out. And I know you've been doing that kind of semi-regularly, I suppose, for a couple of years now. And we obviously have Mac Rhodes on a pretty much a weekly basis where you can kind of talk about Baylor athletics. How maybe therapeutic or informational is being able to do an Ask the AD and just, have that message out there from you to your fan base on a regular basis?
I really enjoy it because when I got here, John Curry had been doing kind of a monthly newsletter, and I'm a terrible writer. And I don't want to sit there and do that. And so we started it. We try to do it monthly. Sometimes with busyness and everything, we don't get quite a bit out there. But we open it to the fans for some questions. We try to keep it about 10 to 12 minutes. And I've gotten really good feedback, and we try to hit topics that they're concerned about. And sometimes they're national. Sometimes they're more local within our department. So we really try to give them updates, but also answer questions they have. And I enjoy it. Our staff enjoys it, and our fans seem to really enjoy it as well.
Just got a text from Mac Rhodes. Gene Taylor has been terrific. He is professional. And I think that's, as you mentioned, you guys both know each other very well, and some of you guys that have stuck together along the way. You are also a part of the college football expansion or college football playoff committee. Is there a little frustration? I know Bob Bowlesby's been frustrated with the lack of whatever's going on. Has that gone slower than you think or you thought?
Yeah, it was. Yeah, obviously I'm not on that decision. That's a different group, clearly. But to me, I think it's best for college football. And as I sit on the committee last year for the first time, and you get down those last couple of weeks, and you're trying to put 4 teams in the finals and 25 total, and we're talking 6-7 schools that you're really considering. Imagine if you had 12. You'd have 25, 30 schools that their fan bases would be energized about, hey, we have a chance to be in the playoffs, the players, and it brings so much more energy to college football that's already very high. And I am frustrated. I wish they could have worked through it and got it done sooner. I think we eventually will. It's just not going to happen before 2026. And I think some of the reasons they're not wanting to expand, whether it's commissioners or whoever on the group, to me don't make sense right now, because you're not going to be able to. We didn't have all the answers when we expanded to 4. We expanded to 4, it worked out, we figured it out. I think that's what needs to happen, is let's expand, figure it out, and then continue to move forward. But apparently it's not going to happen until 2026 now.
Gene, we know that the timeline of Brigham Young is 2023, and of the other schools, it could be as early as then, depending on what they can do to get out of the American Conference. And we don't know the timeline yet on when Texas and Oklahoma will actually leave, no matter what they're saying. In the end, would you like to see the new 12 gain some ground, have some stability for a year or 2 or 3? And is there ever a thought that the Big 12 would go beyond that, or is that too soon to think about?
Yeah, I think I don't know. It's never too soon. I think what we'd love to do is get the 4 in, and whether we're 14 for a couple of years and back to 12. Either one. But I think we want to establish ourselves. But I won't say you never say never, right? I would have felt we were sitting there pretty comfortable that Texas and Oklahoma wouldn't go. But so you got to be prepared, and you have to keep ready and be nimble. And I think we've got to get these 4 schools in here, get some schedules established, and get some championships established, and then continue to consider other options out there. That's my opinion. That's not anything that Bob said publicly or within our meetings, but I think we have to stay nimble and be ready to react and continue to build this conference in a big way.
I want to tie it up with this. We brought you on, and we appreciate you talking about some Big 12 business as well. But today, Jerome Tang was introduced, and we'll have him on eventually. I'm telling you, you know this. He's just incredible. When was the first time you ever met him? Was it when you were in Kansas City?
Yeah, the day he walked in. I mean, I watched him coach because I'd heard his name, but I've never, even had a chance to say hello. But when he walked into our room, there in Kansas City, his presence, and I'm like, I like the guy immediately. And by the way, tell Mac, I'm sorry, I didn't, I haven't paid him for all the compliments. I'll tell him I'll get the same thing.
Believe me, he has it on the agenda. Believe me, I know that. Yeah, he will do that. How much does having someone like Jerome Tang or someone like Chris Kleiman and others, what's it like to have them on campus to help the entire university, not just the athletic department or their program?
Well, we have a brand new president. He's been here maybe 3 weeks, and he's very excited about that because it helps recruit students. We've been in a downward trend a little bit here in general student admissions, and he sees these two guys in our athletic program having an opportunity to continue to increase that, and it brings a lot of energy. It brings a lot of energy to the students and our fans and our donors, and so it does affect a lot more than just athletics, and certainly they understand that, and they want to help. They want to help across campus as well, and having a guy like Jerome stand up like he did today, it just adds to the energy we have right now within our athletic program.
Gene, thank you very much for your time. We do appreciate it. Congratulations on the hire. He has been someone that people have wanted for a few years, and you got him. It's great to see Jerome Tang get that job he's wanted as well. Thanks for your time.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate you having me on, and tell Mac he's the greatest guy in the whole world.
He's going to give. At Ideal MRI, we feel blessed to be a part of the Waco community. We're a small family business right here in Central Texas, and our goal is to bring down the cost of healthcare while maintaining high quality. At times like this, the cost of healthcare has never been more important, and unfortunately, significant illnesses and injuries still occur. That's why Ideal MRI is open and here to serve you through the difficult time. We offer premium MRIs just like a hospital with state-of-the-art technology and specialists, but you'll pay less. Sometimes thousands of dollars less, whether you're using insurance or not. At Ideal MRI, we accept most insurance, and there are no hidden costs, even offering financing if that's needed. Everything included in the price, and you'll not get something as a surprise in the mail later on. If you need an MRI, ask your doctor about Ideal MRI. They'll know. You can schedule an appointment safely from home online in minutes at idealmri.com or give us a call, 833-IDEAL-MRI, idealmri.com.
Born in Waco, Brotherwell Brewing exists to serve the Central Texas community with locally crafted beer of the highest quality. They want to bring Central Texas closer to the brewing experience so everyone can enjoy well-made beer as much as they do. For 2.5 years, they've been bringing high-quality beer to Central Texas at their location on Bridge Street in East Waco. Brotherwell Brewing believes in community and bringing people together to enjoy products made in their community. So for your game day, whether it's a tailgate or at home, stop by Brotherwell Brewing for high-quality craft beer made right here in Central Texas, 400 East Bridge Street, and check them out online at brotherwell.com.
Let Camille Johnson Realtors guide you seamlessly through the process of buying your dream home or selling your current one. Commercial, farm and ranch, or residential, Camille Johnson Realtors can smoothly and successfully lead you through any transaction. With a team of 28 experienced agents who are excited about serving you, Camille Johnson Realtors services the entire greater Waco area. If you're in the market to buy or sell, contact Camille Johnson Realtors, 104 Midway Center in Woodway, or find them online at www.camillejohnson.com. Camille Johnson Realtors, elegant, charming, warm. Welcome home.
Baylor Scott & White Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics, the team physicians for Baylor Athletics, diagnosing and treating all sports-related injuries, including concussions. These specialists also provide orthopedic services for athletes and non-athletes alike, whether it's knee or shoulder pain, hand or wrist injuries, orthopedic spine care, and even an arthritis and total joint clinic. Trust the doctors Baylor Athletics trusts. Baylor Scott & White Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics wants to get you back in the game.
Automatic Chef Canteen is a full-service micro-market vending and office coffee provider with state-of-the-art vending equipment, a wide variety of products, and offering custom-fitted micro-market vending office coffee solutions for your employee break room. You want a full break room solution and a workplace oasis? Well, Automatic Chef Canteen, locally owned and operated for over 50 years in Central Texas, also includes in-house mechanics on call 24/7 for fast, reliable service and maintenance. Automatic Chef Canteen, 6900 Imperial Drive in Waco, or online at automaticchefcanteen.com.
From the first workout to the last practice, sports is an incredible and rewarding challenge. Hi, everyone. This is Dan Ingham with the First National Bank of Central Texas, and we're proud to support each athlete, every parent, and our educators. From families, small businesses, to the biggest industry, we're here to help. With remarkable products like mortgage lending, we've got banking ideas that fuel big dreams. The First National Bank of Central Texas. Familiar faces making local decisions.
Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio. This is Paul Catalina's Top 5 at 5:55, presented by Champion Salon and Barber. To book your appointment, go to championsalonandbarber.com.
Top 5 things to watch for in the NFL draft post free agency. I know we're only a little over a week into it, but most of the things that are going to happen have happened, and the big trades have happened, and you've seen shakeups in the first round. Multiple teams with multiple picks. As a matter of fact, I've lost track of the draft order, Craig. I have no idea. I know the Cowboys are at 24. I know the Lions have multiple picks. I know the Chiefs. I mean, all these. The Chiefs now have back-to-back picks. It's hard to even figure what's going on. But here are some things to look for in the NFL draft coming up post-free agency. Number 5, the Texans will show what their future plans are. In that, look, they say they like Davis Mills at quarterback, but if you've got 2 first-round draft picks, and I believe they have 2 seconds now as well, I wouldn't be surprised to see them draft, especially if one of those guys like a Matt Corral falls to their pick in the second round. Why would you not pick him and have him push Davis Mills?
I mean, I like hamburgers, but if you're offering me a steak, I'll probably take the steak, So, yeah, Davis Mills is fine for what he is, but they can certainly upgrade that position. I mean, he's done nothing to make you think that he's the franchise quarterback over the next few years. So, yeah, I mean, Lovey's loaded with picks. They've got some new breath of fresh air in that building, whereas it's been just a complete dumpster fire for like the last year or so due to all the Deshaun Watson stuff and interim coach and all that. David Culley did a really good job. Did an admirable job for the roster that he was handed last year, and they've been able to salvage. Or not salvage, but they've been able to acquire a bunch of picks. And, I mean, they're going to have a chance to really flip this roster in a major way. So I'm curious as well to see, exactly how they attack that. But seeing them take a quarterback, that would come as no surprise.
Number 4, Aaron Rodgers' real influence on personnel. Look, Devontae Adams is gone. They've got to get some playmakers. So you would assume that would be where they go in the draft. But Jack, an Indy Packers fan, can tell you that there's real no rhyme or reason to why they do what they do. They kind of march to their own, beat of their own drum, and they haven't won a Super Bowl, and they haven't been in the Super Bowl in quite a long time, in spite of having the best quarterback in the league, maybe, and a back-to-back MVP. So they've got to do something different. So we'll see now that he's there and committed for the end run of his career. What is his influence on this, and what are they going to do to maximize the last few years of Aaron Rodgers?
Well, I'm just really hoping he and Shailene Woodley continue to have a great relationship. I mean, that's the most important thing is love. But no, I mean, I don't know, man. That's still such a weird deal. I have no idea what to make of. Is he happy now, or is he still I'm sure he's happy with the money, but then the Devontae Adams trade happens right after that. Although that kind of got blown out of proportion, didn't seem to be that much of a factor for Aaron Rodgers, and he kind of already understood that was going to be the case when he re-signed, that Devontae Adams would probably not be around. But I mean, knowing the Packers organization, they'll turn around and go draft Jordan Love again, in the late first round of this draft, because they just do strange things like that sometimes. But no, they've got some work to do, obviously. I mean, Adams starting with that. We'll see. But I would think that he would have to have some kind of influence. I mean, why are you signing up? Why are you you're the guy. Why would he not? But I mean, that whole situation is just so bizarre to begin with. I don't really know what to make of it.
Yeah. Number 3, the Eagles, Giants, and Packers could be movers and shakers. They've got multiple picks that are all kind of close to one another, which would allow them maybe to move maybe into the top 10, further up in the top 10. In some cases, the Giants are already there, but maybe the Giants could move and do something. I also expect to see this, and this is kind of addendum to this. I expect to see Saquon Barkley traded by the Giants during the draft. I think that'll happen during the draft, when probably second day sometime. If somebody wanted Kenneth Walker or Isaiah Spiller and didn't get him, they might take a flyer on Saquon Barkley, who's very talented but very injured.
Yeah, I mean, he's a walking injury, or at least has been up to this point in his career, and that was one of the concerns coming in. But I hadn't really given him being traded that much thought, but that would certainly be eyebrow raising. It would be very interesting to see if maybe a new home would do well for him. But I mean, the Eagles and Giants in particular. I mean, the Packers are definitely going to probably be moving around. I mean, like we were just kind of referring to, to what extent Aaron Rodgers is a part of that remains to be seen. But they do need to make some moves to just keep, getting Rodgers locked down and getting that out of the way was a big deal. But now they've got some holes to fill. Now, as far as the Eagles and Giants go, I'm really curious just in general the NFC East because, you talk about that meme with the little stick figure and the stick, like poke it, like do something. And I think you referenced that earlier this week. That's kind of what I feel about the NFC East. It's like, what do you got? Like everybody around them is making massive move after massive move. And the NFC East is just kind of there. I guess, Washington trades for Carson Wentz was a big one, but I don't know what to make of the division right now, and the draft will be great for kind of setting the table for what to really expect from the Cowboys, Washington, Eagles, and Giants.
Well, look, the biggest move I think has been made in the NFC East outside of Carson Wentz is the Eagles signed Hassan Reddick, and he's a good player, but I don't think he's going to flip the division for the Eagles. So
no, not that type of a player. No, he's good, and that was very interesting too. Kind of going to Carolina and Matt Rule. For Hassan Reddick to decide to leave was, kind of I'm thinking of Reddick.
No, he did. He was at Carolina. Yeah. He went back to. He's from Philly. He's a Philly guy. So
I'm down to myself here, but that was kind of a telling, or was it telling? You don't really know. But that was interesting if you were a Panthers fan. But that's certainly Wentz and Reddick. Maybe a couple years ago that would have felt like splashes of some sort, but it feels like little drips, quite frankly, right now.
Yeah, and the Panthers, by the way, their GM met the media today and was like, "Yeah, well, Sam Darnold's got to be the guy," but he said like they're trying to get a quarterback. Everybody knows it, and they're monitoring the Baker Mayfield situation, but
they already there's that report that they were equally not or mutually not interested. But hey, if it comes down to it, it might be their only choice for both of them.
Baker Mayfield is better than anybody they'd have on their roster.
He's better than Sam Darnold.
Yeah, so he can be mad at Matt Rule all he wants, but they can figure it out. Number 2, Malik Willis probably goes higher than he should. It looks like he had one of those pro days where people are, oh my gosh, Malik Willis, but he hasn't. I'm a little wary of Malik Willis. He's a good player, but is he a guy that needs to be in the top 10 or the top 15? I don't know. I don't know if there's those guys in this quarterback class. But look, if he gets drafted second overall by the Lions and winds up being a great player, then he went exactly where he should have gone. But
then he'll be a bust.
Yeah,
because that would be such a Detroit move to grab a guy who's not a sure thing. But then again, who's a sure thing?
They also have 2 picks. They have the second pick and the 32nd pick. So.
Yeah, they can make some moves potentially. But I don't feel qualified enough to say whether or not he's being a little bit overrated. I do think as we're getting closer to draft time, there's kind of a buzz building over just underwear Olympics competition and just some throws at a pro day. But, these guys are professional scouts, and I'm not. So if they see something in those throws at pro day to get them excited, then so be it. But really super athletic dude. He can chunk it around. He can run. A lot of things to like about him, but there are some question marks. So, somebody's going to probably go higher than they should. That happens every year with quarterbacks because that's why we look back on it every year and talk about all the busts. I don't know where he'll fit in, but he'll have an opportunity either way.
Yeah. And number 1, the Chiefs who have picks 29 and 30, I think package those and move up. I think eventually, I may say move up. They might move up 4 or 5 picks, but I would not be surprised to see them try to go, even though they signed Juju Smith-Schuster, that's a 1-year deal. Marquez Valdez-Scantling, I would not be surprised to see them try to maybe get in the Traylon Burks business or someone like that. That can be someone to try and replace the production, and they're going to try to do that with Juju and Marquez Valdez-Scantling, but man, Tyreek Hill not being there really makes me wonder about what their goal is early on in the draft as far as what they need.
Yeah, that's a big loss, and I know that Chiefs fans have probably come to grips with it and realize hey, it's a money thing or it's a this thing or a that thing. But certainly they're a little bit less explosive, but they're still a lot more explosive than most NFL teams out there. But yeah, I'm curious to see what they do. They're in that later half of the draft, so we're gonna have to wait a little while to see them actually make a pick. But if they do decide to move up, that would be very interesting. I don't feel like. I guess, the Jahan Dotsons and I guess the top guys would probably be too high up for them to go and grab. Who else is there? There's,
Jameson Williams, but he's coming off the torn ACL, so he actually, that might be one that could fall to them at that 29th or 30th pick, and they wouldn't have to move
maybe
up.
That's something that they would, maybe that's something that they're banking on seeing how that goes. But yeah, They're going to draft well. They always do. I mean, that's the thing. That's, they're talked about, and kind of like with the Rams, they're talked about because of free agent moves they made and just big star players. But you look at both of them, they both drafted incredibly, incredibly well. And that's, the free agency stuff you can do all day. But when you compare it with the draft picks and build that way, it just makes, you a totally different franchise. And that's why they are where they are. And plus a once in a generation quarterback. So yeah, they'll be a fun team to watch on draft.
All right, that's going to do it. That's the top 5. Thanks to Faith and Emery and Jack and Armstrong. Thanks to Joe Giuliano. Thanks to I'm blanking. It's Friday. Thanks to everybody who was a part of the show. Matt Tate. Everyone, have a great weekend, everybody. We'll see you on Monday.
Ideal MRI is a small family business right here in Central Texas. We're open to support you while lowering the cost of healthcare bills. When you need an MRI, ask your doctor for an Ideal MRI. Visit us at idealmri.com or call us at 833-IDEAL-MRI.
Stepping into the boots of a U.S. Army officer can add confidence and leadership skills to your son or daughter's career path. See all the things they can achieve in our boots at GoArmy.com. U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company, 254-598-8131 or 254-776-1543.
After my first car accident, I feared the biggest damage would be to my wallet. I expected a mountain of bills and a long, drawn-out process. But my Texas Farm Bureau insurance agent was there when I needed her and helped me get back on my feet and in my car in no time. Instead of a hassle, I got reassurance and a quick recovery.
Stop by and see our agents at one of our 3 McLennan County locations.
Coverage and discounts are subject to qualifications and policy terms and may vary by situation.